Hello, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program, version 1.11.2. In case it's not obvious, that's a bit older than the version that I've used for previous videos. Or actually, I might have recorded footage on this version before, I don't know, but not recently. You can also see this is Kerbin back here and not Earth, so it is not realism to the moon that we are doing. No, instead this is actually a copy of Kerbal Space Program that I found sitting on, sitting on my hard drive somewhere unusual. And here, I think, is where this save, default, which I've made a copy of so we can fuck with it, might be able to be loaded, if it is loadable anywhere. I don't know, to be sure, but I didn't go into CCAN and update mods or anything like that, so we'll see. This is exactly how I left it in like 2020 or something when I stopped playing on this version, but I think I left default behind before that. Default is when you start a new game, the default name of a save. So when I first started playing Kerbal Space Program, I did this. I opened this window and pressed the start button and got default, which is also why default is year 8, day 324 instead of all of these year 1 things. Um, so I would like to see if something is going on in here. We can also check out board game. I think some interesting things happened there, but yeah, this is kind of predictable. Orbiter, a bunch of parts are missing because of missing parts. We can just load it. Let me confirm. I'm loading copy, and we'll load it and see what happens, but that tells us that we do not have the correct mod set to reach this game, unfortunately. I could probably read the lists and figure it out. Ignore exception. Yeah, okay. Okay. Hmm. Cool. Thanks. Thank you. I understand. Do any of these load? No. Okay. Yeah. So we can't really look at any of these things, but we could. I can't even get rid of this error. Um, we can see a little bit of like what I was doing at the time I left this game. Um, we can see like this is level 2, this is level 2. So I did like upgrade because I started playing Kerbal Space Program on like version 0.25 or something like that, right? I bought this game in 2014. And this game was last saved in 2016. So when I bought the game, it was before we had the upgradable part buildings here, I'm pretty sure. So that's why these aren't max. And you can see I got some interesting missions going on here. Kerbal kind start, yeah. Oh, this is I had KCT on this save. Jesus. Yeah, and I don't have any tracked objects anymore because everything got deleted. Because we don't have the correct mod set. Okay, let's go back to the main menu. Default is apparently not a loadable save. Like I said, I would have to try to load it, see the list of mods that are missing, and I can probably go find copies of them and load them in. Because like I do have CCAN. And I'm guessing most of those mods or all of them I would have got through CCAN, so I can just grab it. Because I know there is a copy of CCAN in this install. So I can make something happen. Theoretically. It would just take significantly more work. Are we actually quitting to main menu game? I have no idea if this is frozen or not. Hello. There we go. Jeez. Um, yeah, you can look back. Old menu. This is how things looked on this version when we're not in real solar system. And yeah, they did make it to the moon. You can see here that moon actually has an umlaut, so it's not mun, it's moon. Which is cool. But let's actually let me real quick uh off of the recording. Let me make a copy of this board game guy. That was one that I made, I'm pretty sure, because I didn't feel like fixing default. Exactly, like I still don't feel like fixing default, so I made a new game there. That might be the one for this. Um, these are career mode games where we're actually like doing contracts and stuff, so I can tell that these would be the ones that I would actively be playing. Because usually when I just play the game, I play career mode, not sandbox. Alright, and this is actually the live game for this install. We can see there's all these vehicles here. Yeah, I actually think I remember this save, because I've got an impactor, I've got all of these satellite networks going out throughout the system. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Lunar Gateway. Yes, I remember this. The Grand Kerbal Resort. Oh, man. Memories. All right. This is going to be fun. So, if we look at research and development, I've actually gone quite far in the tech tree and never researched basic aviation, by the way. Kind of shows you where my priority and parts are, because who needs these? uh, Never researched simple command modules, so I don't have the Mark 1 lander. Oh boy. Good stuff. But I do have, modded experimental rocketry and improved nuclear reactors and fuck even is this shit? I don't even know what mods these come from. The Amalthea command module. Jesus. Oh, that's actually wow. Memories are flooding back to me actually looking at these parts. I have untitled spacecraft debris. Is this the one that's like a parachute at the bottom of the ocean? Let's find out. I don't know for certain what this is, but I do know I have a screenshot of Kerbal Space Program on my computer that's like a seafloor parachute.png or something like that. So I'm wondering if that's of this. Um, I believe it is. We have a parachute at the bottom of the ocean, 735 meters down. Cool. You can tell looking at this how different it looks from if you watch the series I posted just the regular Kerbal Space Program series. There's an episode where I send something to the bottom of the sea, and you can see the seafloor and the water both look very different to this. If we scroll out, actually the water looks pretty similar looking at that. But yeah, that's the difference in versions and mod sets. Cool. Let's go to the tracking station. So in this save, I was doing a lot of things. Because here I remember I installed Remote Tech and I had the objective for myself of, oh dear God. Yeah, am in the process of setting up communications networks to guarantee that anywhere in the solar system can have communication 100% of the time to the ground. So you can see all of these lines are all of the possible links between all of my communication satellites. And I've got satellites going out to every planet in the system almost. Like here, if we look at Eve, which is this game's equivalent of Venus, I guess, for those of us who haven't played it, I have my Eve Surveyor. Oh boy, this is the same with the Surveyor program. And I do have landers. Oh boy, I can go through so much stuff here. This is content for sure. Landers, yeah, there's the Surveyor. And I have all sorts of relay satellites and communication satellites around here, all programmed, all put in different orbits, so that somebody can always see the Space Center. And if we go and let's look at the Surveyor, actually. So here, the surveyor program in this save was my name for robotic landers that go and do science in places. It was named after NASA's surveyor program, which was the program that put NASA's first spacecraft on the moon. Not the moon in KSP, but the actual moon in the real world. And here is my Eve Surveyor, which is an homage to this. Oh god, my zoom is reversed when I'm looking at this thing, and I don't know why. Um, but you can see it is actually landed on its fairing and heat shield. God. I never separated and deployed the landing legs because it landed in Eve's ocean. And this planet has an ocean made of a material called explodium, as you can see, so it is extremely dense. And it's got its own communication, it's got solar arrays, and it's got these huge thermal control systems to make sure there's no heat issues. Because we are, after all, can I find a thermometer on this thing? I know I have one, because you can see I installed every possible science part. And it is 427 degrees Kelvin here. Feel free to convert that to whatever temperature you like, but this says, "Good morning, ladies and gentle Kerbs. It's going to be a real scorcher out at sea today with surface highs of over 150 degrees expected and sunny weather all day. Better take plenty of water with you when you go out and dip to cool off. This is Jeb for KSWN." Not sure who Jeb's reporting this to or where he is, because Jeb is definitively not here, as Surveyor is an unmanned program. Where actually is Jeb? We can find out. But yes, as you can tell, this is a very much developed space program. Um, and I don't want to go too far into it because I do actually have a lot of really interesting things going on with all the communication satellites. That's something that I genuinely really enjoy, is setting up a network of communication satellites and making sure everything's linked. Um, yeah, here you can see I have all of these Kerbals in orbit. Most of them are on my station. So I have Kerbin Station 1, which is a research station, and the Grand Kerbal Resort, which is a tourism target named after the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno. And oh yeah, so Jeb is on Kerbal 4. That makes a lot of sense. So oh, is this is the save with an asteroid? Yeah, so in this career mode, I installed a mod that gave contracts for tourism, which is why I have all of these different interesting things. Curbsats, space camp. Yeah, so this mod gave me the ability to run space camps to hire tourists. So I have, oh boy. I'm not sure how interesting a video this is going to be for you, the viewer, but I'm going to have a lot of fun just going through all the old stuff in this save file because I actually put a lot of time into this save file. I mean, it was 5 years of in-game time. You can see how many different missions I'm running here, so I don't know. This is memories for me. But anyway, these space camps were basically missions where I would fly these vehicles. Just giant canisters with life support. I always play with life support. It makes the game more challenging in a way that's interesting to me to actually have to deal with the fact that Kerbals can die if you just leave them in space forever. But the basic idea of this is the contract lets you take Kerbals into orbit, leave them there for a while, and then when they come back, they become trained asteroids that you can use in the program without having to hire them. Which is very convenient because when you have as many Kerbals as me, hiring them becomes very expensive. So this is my space camp vehicle, and you can see it's got these air brakes to make sure that it stays in control, and it's got landing legs to actually land this entire thing without, exploding and killing my Kerbals. So that's pretty cool. Um, so let's see. There's the Grand Kerbal Resort. I guess we can go there. So if we go to the GKR, this is my space hotel, and I'm hoping I don't get the Kraken here. I do remember that this save had problems with the Kraken, just destroying my space stations, but I'm pretty sure I fixed them. at some point. I don't know. This is absolutely massive. So this is 200 tons in orbit, which is, bigger than the International Space Station in a game where everything's smaller. You can see we've got these giant tourism vehicles attached to carry people here to the space station. And this is a self-sufficient station, so it doesn't require additional support from outside. It has all of these greenhouses to keep up all the supplies, and it's got these big spinny habitats, I guess, to provide artificial gravity. And up at the very top is like the crew section, right? Like if you look at it here, this is like life support. This is the docking port for visitors. Then here we've got the like hotel area for the tourists. And then up here, I'll just aim the camera further up so we get a good angle on it. Up here is like our communication sections, our power unit, and the spacecraft for the actual staff, the pilot and the people in charge of the trained asteroids who operate the station. Because I do follow in this game, just like in NASA does in real life, the policy that when you're on a space station, you must have a vehicle attached that can get you home in case the space station explodes or something. I think there are also contracts that are like escape the space station as fast as possible. We could see what contracts I have. But yeah, we've got another hub here to dock more stuff if necessary. Basically just a massive space station for tourism purposes. And if we switch to Kerbal Station 1, this is the research space station, so the one that's built for scientific purposes, which is going to look a little bit less clean. It's not that bad, though. If we look at this station, it always takes a while to load, and that always makes me nervous. So we've got... What is this? We've got some sort of adapter here. Oh, okay. So this is a nuclear reactor module that's attached to make sure it has power in the dark. Don't think we actually need that. This is running at full power for reasons I don't understand. I don't know what I was doing. Because this thing has a shitload of solar panels, and I'm very certain that this 200,000 kilowatt hours is I think the unit the game uses is enough. I guess I was just having fun with it. But anyway, it's got that. It's got this. Yeah, look at all these batteries. It's got all these massive batteries connected to relay antennas because this is a fully functioning communications relay. It's got an orbital science laboratory with processing for life support. It's got its own hydroponics bay to grow food in. This is a resupply vehicle here, if you want to look at it. So it's like this guy can undock on itself, and it can be launched autonomously to deliver supplies should the station need it, because it's not as self-sufficient as the hotel. And here's our crew vehicle. This is the same one that was on the hotel, because part commonality. Cool. And, as a science station, this one does have every possible bit of science experiment in the universe. And I have designed missions before. I think Kerbal 4 is actually one of these missions where I go recover science and then bring them back to the station to be processed. Speaking of... Well, actually, before we do that, I want to look at this asteroid, because I actually remember this. I went on a mission to capture this asteroid and put it in orbit because there are tourism missions that are extremely lucrative to take people to go see an asteroid up close. So here is how I accomplished those missions. I towed a fucking asteroid here, and I have like a little resort on the asteroid. Here's my... So I have these little guys, these docking ports that are docked to the asteroid permanently. I have this like maneuvering unit that can move the asteroid around. This supply unit, somehow just connecting this to the asteroid means all of these space capsules have supplies. Not sure how food can just teleport through the rock, but best not to think about it. Another docking port, and then at this docking port, I've got tourists. So this is the Amalthea I showed off. This is the most advanced technology I have it unlocked. By the fact that there's no rest of the space capsule, you can kind of see why I like it, because this is literally just a capsule. It's got a heat shield, and I think embedded in Jesus Christ, embedded inside the heat shield, I will have these. Yeah, there's this stuff in here. There's like a little service bay in between, inside of the capsule, over the heat shield. It's got its own engines in there. So this is a self-sufficient, not very long-lived, but self-operating capsule. And I just have a vehicle that can throw this near this asteroid and dock it to one of these ports, and then it can go home. So I can bring tourists to the asteroid very easily. And that's that. So over on the moon, we've got our own communication network up, of course, consisting of 4 satellites in strange orbits. I actually did go out of my way to like plan these out to some extent. Not really so much, but the intent is basically that there's all of these can talk to each other, and there's no way for all of them to be disconnected from Kerbin at the same time. Um, oh yes, the rovers. Oh, this is cool. All right, so let's look at the gateway first. So here is my space station around the moon. Um, this was a cool station. I remember I think I was in the middle of like working on building out this station more when I stopped playing this save. And I think I stopped playing this save to run the original KSP series, if I'm remembering the timing correctly. But you can see this is a little bit better design than the station around Kerbin. It's got a very similar look here, like this is the same nuclear reactor with adapters system, but it's been moved so that it's in line with the rest of the station. And it's got a resource converter here, because this one, unlike the Kerbin station, is actually also a refueling depot. So it has, or at least it had, I think it might actually be on the moon at the moment, a ore mining vehicle. So it can send the vehicle down to the moon, mine ore, bring it up. It has tanks of ore somewhere. This is a tank of ore. And this guy can process that ore into any sort of fuel. And there are tanks here to store that fuel. So that means that this, vehicle, part of the vehicle here, this module, can refuel anybody who comes to stay with whatever type of fuel it might need, which makes it a useful outpost that I was planning to use perhaps to launch manned missions beyond the Kerbin system. And once again, it's self-sufficient on fuel. It's got one of these artificial gravity guys. It's got one of these supply vehicles. It looks very similar. And it's got a slightly bigger version of the same, like, crew vehicle that I had before. It's got more life support available. It doubles as a resupply vehicle, I think, because I didn't feel like flying as many missions. It's got shit in here for life support of the crew. And this one is bigger just because it has to go all the way to the moon. But it also has these landing struts and these parachutes on the side so it can be recovered after it comes home to Kerbin. Very nifty. Meanwhile, on the surfer, or on the surface, Jesus, what surfer of what? Lunar lander. I think before I ran the actual surveyor probes, I had these landers that just went to the moon and picked up a very small amount of science. Very primitive, original moon landing type vehicle. That has all of this mystery goo that I never used, because there's no extra science to be had from it, and I ran out of fuel to move it other places. Um, yeah, fuel tank, batteries, stuff. This is how I design robotic moonlanders, or at least this is how I designed it back when I ran the series. I don't know. I feel like it would be fun to do another career. I want to do that. And oh geez, this is before I had stopped KOS for all. Um, and this is just like a little lander. It's nice. I like it. Not really much to say about it though. But I do want these servicers. Okay, so can I see the rover? Oh wow. So okay, Moon rover, unfinished the moon buggy. Yeah, I had a contract to send crew here to fix this broken rover from some other company, I guess. I don't know. But so here you can see this is called Moon Rover. Then there's Moon Rover Servicer and Moon Rover Servicer 2. So let's check these guys out. Actually, can we see flags? Because that will help us tell the story too. Yeah, so here's a flag next to Moon Rover. Here's a flag, Kerbal 3 northernmost extent. So Kerbal 3 was a mission to perform a manned landing on the moon. I think it might have been the first landing, and it used this rover alongside it, and it drove around. So if we go to the Moon Rover site, the rover is actually an autonomous vehicle. I really like this rover. I have a lot of pictures of me designing and using this rover because it's kind of awesome. And if you look up how the Curiosity and Perseverance rovers were landed on Mars, I used the same system for this guy. So here it is, my rover. It's got room for 3 people to sit on it, so 1 up top and 2 on the sides. So a pilot, an engineer, and a scientist. It's got all sorts of science experiment. It got solar panels. Do not extend those when running the vehicle. I learned that lesson. And it's got some nuclear batteries on the side to help it keep power. Experiment storage to put all of these experiments in. And just resource transfer stations and all sorts of cool gear. And life support, of course. I think this can manage the Kerbals for a few weeks. And yeah, you can drive it around. The rover controls are kind of strange. Oh yeah, and it's got RCS on it. It's got little jets to press it down to the ground while driving quickly. I don't remember the driving controls in this game. Otherwise, I might take it out for a drive. It also has these landing gear to on-flip it as necessary. Uh, I don't remember my key bindings. I could probably go settings. No, I have to go to the main menu to figure it out. I don't want to do that. Uh, Basically, yeah, it's a rover. It drives around the moon. But, and here, yeah, this is Kerbal 3. So this flag marks the site where. Can I read the plaque? I have to send a person here to read the plaque, which is annoying. This site is the landing spot for Kerbal 3, and I brought this rover in and sky craned it down somewhere around here. And then the Kerbals took that buggy and just started driving around the moon. So they went down into this crater where we picked up this. Hello, Kim. Thank you. Wait for it. Oh, yes, I see. That is flying. Where we have this. And this is called the Moon Rover Servicer. So basically, the Kerbals went all the way out here, which is across a lot of the moon on that rover, and they were running out of food and supplies, and I think I had a crash like coming down the lip of this crater, so I broke the rover and they couldn't come home. So I designed and launched this little mission to bring them more supplies. You can see how much waste they transferred in here. They took all this fuel, and these cardboard boxes were full of parts to attach to the rover to improve it. And Bill, the engineer, came out and set everything up. And just for fun, because the landers, like, if you look at the lander, it's got its own landing engine, but the transfer stage for it actually survived the landing on the moon, so I just hooked it up with this fuel pipe. Just for shits and giggles. And now it's just a lander sitting on the surface of the moon. And then they drove out into this crater, planted this flag called Southernmost Extent. I was actually recently watching Interstellar Quest by Scott Manley. Scott Manley's a cool guy. He's an actual astrophysicist of some sort. I don't remember what exactly he did, but he's a trained astrophysicist, and when Kerbal Space Program first came out, he started making YouTube videos helping people learn to play it, and he became a big, like actually the big guy in the Kerbal Space Program YouTube space. Um, and he ran several series of Kerbal Space Program videos that I will admit I kind of uh, did a lot of the things that he did because he is a really good entertainer. And one of them was Interstellar Quest, which was an epic Kerbal Space Program series. I highly recommend you watch it, honestly. It's great. And one of the things that he did in that series was comment on hoping that he could get his Kerbals into this canyon, where I actually took the rover and planted this flag. So this is the southernmost extent of the rover in this canyon. If you zoom out, it's like, yeah, it's very craggly terrain if we keep going that way. And I think I went here, took a look at that, and said I could try driving there, but if I get stuck in that canyon, I'm just fucked. So I turned around. And I started trying to get them home, but the process of getting around the edge of this crater meant that I had to go out here to the northernmost extent. Isn't this fun? I'm having fun. I hope you are enjoying seeing me reminisce about these missions. If not, then I apologize. You can go away. You are not obligated to be here. You have freedom. But yeah, flag. This is as far north as I went before I was like, okay, I really need to turn around. I don't want to drive into this crater. I have to get back to the landing site with the vehicle that can actually take my Kerbals home before they starve. Um, But by that point, they needed another servicing mission. So I went and landed another servicer on the moon. Yeah, remember when I mentioned this thing about not driving with the solar panels out? One of these servicers was to bring new solar panels to fix it. And this servicer didn't quite land as well as the first one, apparently. But it's got its solar panels still attached. It's got fuel. It's got, charge. It works. And it has cardboard boxes, still with repair kits to fix, I think, broken wheels was the situation that I had to fix here. And yeah, more life support fixing. It doesn't look like it was quite as bad on this one. I think on the first servicer, the Kerbals were literally down to like their last day before they died of thirst. Or maybe, I think they might have had enough oxygen, but I think they were dying of thirst. And yeah, had to land this servicer very on time or they would have died. Then had to land this servicer for them on the way back before they finally made it back to the rover. So that was a very epic mission. I have lots of screenshots of those missions somewhere. Um, so anyway, if you're wondering where's the other stuff, well, here's KLS 1 Mod 1. What does KLS mean? Well, at the time I was running the series, NASA was running the HLS competition for the Human Landing System to land humans on the moon as part of the Artemis program, which is currently, as I make this video, in a little bit of flux, as Trump may or may not be totally screwing up the whole thing in favor of doing it more with SpaceX/Elon Musk. Speaking of SpaceX, here's the landing gear from the Falcon 9. So this is the KLS, the Kerbal Landing System, and it is intended to land Kerbals on moons. Revolutionary, I know. So basically, this is for the Kerbal 3 and Kerbal 4 missions were both self-contained. They brought their own stuff, went to the moon, and came back in their own vehicle. The KLS program was to attach itself to, I guess in this case, Minmus. Do I have a station here for this, or is this intended to meet up with the Kerbal 4 ship? I don't know. I think it's supposed to meet up with Kerbal 4 because I don't see a flag. So it's intended to meet up with the Kerbal 4 vehicle, unlike Kerbal 3, and give it landing capability. Yeah, because this one, I guess this one could land. I don't really know why I'm following this mission plan, but here is where I have Bill, Bob, Jeb, and Valentina, all inside the capsule here. If I remember correctly, I think Kerbal 3, I didn't have the room to take Valentina, so that's why if we look here, she's got less XP than the other ones, because she has never landed on the moon. She's now outside, and Science Alert is telling me I can do EVA. I, I don't know how. I don't know what experiment it thinks I can do. Okay. Anyway, this is Kerbal 4. I think this is pretty much the same vehicle as I had for Kerbal 3. Well, no, it's definitely not. What am I saying? Because it's got the 7-person crew module instead. But yeah, this is where all of my good astronauts are, and that's why Jeb is not broadcasting from the surface of Eve. So that is my first landing on Minmus in progress, but in the meanwhile, oh yeah, I built a space shuttle. I think we should look at this. I've got all these surveyors going on. This is some pretty cool stuff that I've flown. Lathe Flyer. I wonder what we can see about this. So Lathe in the Kerbal Space Program, in the Kerbal system, which is the stock in Kerbal Space Program, is like an Earth-like moon of the planet Jupiter, or of Jool, which is the equivalent of Jupiter. Jool is actually awesome. We should go look at it. And so I have launched Surveyor probes to most of those places, but for Lathe, because you can, use air-breathing engines on Lathe because it has a breathable atmosphere, I launched this thing, which is the Lathe Flyer. And it actually has helicopter rotors. And I actually tested this pretty extensively in Sandbox. I copied over the vehicle file, and it actually flies fairly well, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's a helicopter for another planet. That sounds pretty revolutionary, but actually NASA has already done that with Ingenuity on Mars. So not sure that happened before I flew this mission though. So who knows who's ripping who off, huh? Anyway, surveyors and communication satellites for the equivalent of Mercury, for the equivalent of the Mars system. I basically ran programs that were, whenever there was a transfer window to do a fuel efficient transfer to another planet, I just sent all of the vehicles that way. And that's why I have these all at similar times. Oh, this one has a nice big telescope on it and some communications equipment. That's neat. I don't actually remember all these missions. There is a lot of shit going on. I remember basically a lot of these because I use the naming convention. Surveyor tells me, Dress Surveyor tells me it's going to Dress, and it's a Surveyor mission. Elu Surveyor tells me it's going to Elu, and it's a Surveyor mission. Look at all of these orbits for all of these vehicles going out, by the way. So, yeah. Let's go look at Jool, because I said we should. So if we look at Jool, look how pretty this planet is. Isn't this cool? It's like Jupiter, but green. And, there. Here's Lathe. It's an ocean world. So actually, I had to design the Lathe Flyer to be able to land in ocean safely. So it's got a little inflatable pad at the bottom. And maybe I can pop into Sandbox with it and show you how it works. But anyway, I think this is enough of looking at missions in progress. Let's go look in the VAB and see what's actually here. I don't know how long I want this video to be. I don't really have plans for this. I don't have a time limit either. I'm just basically fooling around in this game because there's a lot we can do. And yeah, there might be moments when the game crashes. I don't think this is one of them, but the game has been getting progressively more stable as time goes on, and modding the crap out of it does not make it more stable. I guess while we're here, so let's go to mission control. So these are the available contracts that I could take on, right? Bring 34 tourists to our hotel, the Grand Kerbal Resort, and that's why it's so itself. Oh, get in a car and drive tourists around the Space Center. I don't know why that's a thing. Oh, I think, yeah, this is to give me a contract to build a casino in space, which I wanted to do. Grand Tourist Tool of Jewel. Go to all the moons of Jewel, Jupiter. Yeah. All right, and here's the active contract. Yeah. You can basically see it's a lot of tourist missions. Here's the space camp that I'm doing. Tourists, build a casino. That's going to be pretty epic. If you look at the requirements for this, it's got antennas, it's got docking ports, it can fit 100 Kerbals on it. It's got 24 lights, 4 asteroids. That thing's going to be nuts. But yeah, basically shitload of contracts there. And if we look at this vehicle assembly building, let's see all the vehicles that I've designed. So this is going to include, because I did keep lots of old designs that are no longer useful, that I won't be flying again, but just, historical vehicles, so to speak. And that's going to include a lot of interesting things that we haven't looked at. For example, this probably includes the mega-sized communication satellites that I have to basically have ground stations in space. So you can see here, the last thing I flew was Kerbal Station Mega Tourism, which would have been a flight to the Grand Kerbal Resort. It's got this disgusting mix of boosters at the bottom. Yes, if you have been watching the Realism to the Moon series, this is how I design vehicles when I am being lazy, but I would argue this is less crazy than Realism to the Moon's thing. Yeah, we've just got this whole thing. You'll recognize if I took off... Where would it be? If I took this... No. If I removed this decoupler, you'd recognize this sort of thing to be part of what's at the resort. Is it this? And yeah, I think this is the entire tourist vehicle that's docked to the Kerbal Resort. So that's interesting. Don't save. I'm not trying to do anything. So, asteroid redirect mission. This thing goes to an asteroid and moves it. So this is how I captured that asteroid for the tourism flights. And you can see it's this whole giant stack, basically designed around the principle of getting a lot of fuel to this grabbing unit to pick up an asteroid and move it. Alright, so let's look at one of the surveyors. BOP is not that interesting, I don't think. Let's look at the Eve surveyor, because we already looked at that one. Comet visitor, ComSat rescuer? Oh, I guess this takes one Kerbal out with old school tech to go visit a communication satellite and fix it up. Dress satellite launcher. I think this was like I was trying to save money, so I built a system to have one big satellite and 2 small satellites. So one of them maintains communication with home, and 2 of them maintain, spread out communication with the rest of the planet. Oh, Duna Surveyor. I think this one's interesting. So yeah, big ass launch vehicle. Fairly reasonable one, actually. I mentioned in the Realism to the Moon series that I was trying to do recovery of my launch stages in a program, and this is the program. So this is how I have made this stage recoverable. I've got air brakes, grid fins, parachutes everywhere, and solar panels to run it, and an engine, so I can actually land it. Pretty fun stuff. And up here, so if I remove this decoupler, this is the landing vehicle for the Duna Surveyor. And it's got a bunch of science tech, a bunch of stuff, and it's actually a 2-stage guy. So it's got a landing vehicle on it, and if we detach this part... No, how does this work? Yeah, okay. This is fascinating. So this part that I'm holding is a permanent lander, but it is intended to transfer science up here to this experiment return unit, and then it launches. So it's got these separatrons and these pugs, and it fires off, blasts off into space. This part actually lands back on the surface of Duna, soft, with these parachutes. after it's sent itself into like space. And then here we've got an ion thruster, and this whole thing carries this. Hang on, how does this work? Yeah, this whole thing carries this guy, which is a re-entry vehicle. So this actually does sample return from Mars in one mission. Pretty cool, if I say so myself. Obviously, Eve Surveyor didn't do that, if we look at it. That one is the one that we actually looked at on the surface of Eve. I believe this was the first Surveyor mission, because the launch vehicle looks a little different, a little more mundane. And here, there's an Eve Surveyor relay, which is, I was really clever about how I designed this shit, which is this little thing in the middle. This like transfer stage would got into orbit of Eve and then dropped off this little satellite that had no capability to do anything for its own, alongside itself, to do communications relays for the Surveyor program lander. And here is what the lander that we looked at, or I guess, so it's supposed to land like this, but the way it actually looks on the surface is, no, hang on, is like this. This is the heat shield that I was showing off that it was landed on. And yeah, that's what it looks like compressed inside of its fairing. It has an experiment return unit on it, but it's not actually intended to return those experiments. The reason that it's there is both to mate to this this drone core that controls the rest of it, and so that I can actually store science in there. Because I don't think I had the communications network set up at the time, so it would have to do a bunch of science, store it into the experiment return unit, and then transfer it through this relay satellite whenever it went overhead. And you can see, oh no, I apparently did have EveSat going, because according to the description, taking advantage of launcher commonality with the EveSat program and their relay network, this mission shall land the probe on the surface of Eve to send us information and give a future source of data on conditions there. In other words, if I got a contract to return science from Eve, I could just go to the Surveyor. Here's the... So when I do a space station, I keep a sort of quote-unquote ground spare in the vehicle assembly building, and this is it. So this is what the Grand Kerbal Resort Station looks like without visiting spacecraft. And the reason that I do that is, I bet you I have some cool sub-assemblies here. Yeah. All sorts of interesting sub-assemblies going on. And if I just grab one, here's a command pod. The idea is that I can stick it on top and see like how it fits with the rest of the station, to make sure that like when I design something to add on to the station, it doesn't impact the rest of it. You can see like here we have, oh, here's the relayer satellite. Yeah, look at how big that is inside the fairing. I bet we're gonna see a vehicle for that. Oops. Don't save, I have not done anything. Joule Impactor, actually these are missions we might like to look at. So, Jupiter is a gas giant. Joule is also a gas giant. This vehicle throws a poor science probe into Joule so we can see what it's like to die horribly by being crushed by a gas giant. Sorry, little probe. Yeah, as the title alludes to, it basically throws this spacecraft in the direction of Jupiter. This is like a little space cruise stage to make sure it's adjusted, but when it gets close, it drops that, inflates this heat shield, and this vehicle falls into the atmosphere and does science for as long as it can. It has these radiators to try and keep it cool as long as possible. It's got these antennae, and I fit the whole spacecraft so that it would be shielded by this heat shield and not melt on the way in. And the intent is basically to go through, do science as long as possible, send it all back through these comm antennas. I think it's got, yeah, look at all the battery packs it's got in there to keep battery going. And yeah, just send back as much science as it can manage while it's dying on the way into Joule. And then I also flew Joule Impactor 2, which I think is bigger. I don't know what the difference is. Let's look at it. throws another poor science probe into Joule so we can see what it's like to die horribly by being crushed by a gas giant. Sorry, second little probe. Yeah, you can tell I started by copying the original vehicle. So if we just come back up, it's got the same sort of plan to it, but this one's bigger. And I think this one is intended to last a little longer. It's got bigger deployable radiators. It's got more antennas. It's got some grid fins to maintain control. I don't know why I did this twice. I think I might have been hoping for this one to collect like science from deeper into the atmosphere, or maybe I ran a test and I realized maybe the other one isn't as reliable as I would like it to be, so I built this one out to be bigger. But yeah, I sent those two to basically dive into Joule and do stuff. Here's the launch vehicle for the Kerbal 4 mission that we were just looking at. Again, with this slightly insane design down here on the launch stage, but here's the spacecraft we were looking at. Yay. I don't know. I'm not very interested in looking too much at that. What is this? Ground spare for the Kerbal landing. Oh, here's a Kerbal landing system in its deployed configuration. Look at that guy. So it's got docking ports so it can attach whatever it wants to it. This is an ore miner vehicle. Because here it's got a drill to mine ore, it's got ore canisters on the side. So this is intended to go, it's got a nuclear reactor on it. That's cool. This is supposed to go down, mine for ore, and bring it back up to those space stations to be refined. And here's all the other Kerbal missions, right? Like here's Kerbal 1, my first manned orbiter. It's so tiny compared to the other ones. I think this is this single stage to orbit? No, it's not. Okay. I guess it wouldn't be anyway because of the booster. Here's Kerbal 2, which was meant to carry Valentina and others. Like, Kerbal 1 was flown by Jebediah, and this one flew the other 3 to get experience. And then Kerbal 3, which went to the moon. You can kind of see the progression of these vehicles. And here is the actual landing vehicle that landed on the moon, beside that rover that we were talking about. I'm kind of skipping over a lot of these. I don't care about a lot of these. I don't even remember what does MPLM. Oh, MPLM is what I called this little guy. This like multi-purpose logistics module is I think what it stands for. But this is basically a super cheap launch vehicle to just launch one of these resupply guys. Yeah. Provides storage and resources to an asteroid in LKO. Includes bonus batteries and solar panel. Kerbal Relayer. Yeah, this is one of the ones I wanted to look at. This one is crazy. 516 parts. I think this is one of my heaviest launch vehicles. Look how massive this sucker is. Look at how massive it is. It's got wing connectors in here for reasons I don't understand. I think this is to help land the top thing. To help land the stage. It's got all sorts of wacky stuff going on to help it land. Look at those struts, Jesus. Because I don't even know why it needed more than just auto struts. All sorts of tech to land it, but if we just get rid of the launch vehicle, look at this thing. Oh Jesus, I don't have the hangar extender. Look at this. This is all one communications relay satellite. Look at it. Behold its infinite glory. The Gigantor solar arrays. Yeah, this guy is a seriously big communications relay, if that is not obvious. It's got crazy numbers of gyroscopes to help it stay stable. It's got tons of monopropellant with these little thrusters to help it move around. Got power for days. And yeah, basically its intent is that this antenna at the top talks to the ground. These little relay antennas help it talk to other stuff, and all of the rest of these provide relay power to basically everything. So a small network of these basically are ground stations that allow you to communicate with anything in the universe. And just in case I wanted to go crazier and send it elsewhere in the universe, I put the whole thing from this fairing up into a submodule in case I want more. Yeah, that thing kind of scares me, but it's also kind of awesome. But just quickly skipping a lot of other stuff. So here's Kerbin Station Expedition, the vehicle that launches just the crew for a Kerbin station, either the hotel staff on the Kerbal Resort or the actual station crew on the science station. God fucking damn it, I accidentally saved that. Now I have to fix it. Um, mass tourism. Yeah. Mega tourism. Even bigger. Uh, Here's the ground spare for the space station, Kerbin Station 1. And this is kind of like, we can maybe see a little bit more here why I keep this ground spare system going. Because this would be like for, if I rearrange it like so, I can start doing checks like, ah shit, that doesn't attach properly, but whatever. Um, will these solar panels run into stuff if I dock it like so, right? If I put this here, I would have to reroute it, but you get the general concept of why it's like that. This is the ground spare, and then this is the vehicle that launched the first, the inner core of it, which is massive because I wanted this survey scanner. But you can see that's the original station core, which struggled with power a lot, which is probably why it had, yeah, here's the launch vehicles for each module, the hub, the hab, power module, reactor, and here's a resupply vehicle with the first MPLM. Neat. CurbSat launcher, so this just launches a communication satellite for contract purposes. Here is the first, oh my god. This is the vehicle that launched my first satellite into Kerbin orbit. I think it's still up there. But look at the insanity of how I did this with low levels of technology and for cheap, because back then I actually had money problems. What a vehicle this is. Ah yes, KS Car. It's got a little bit of a Z fighting going on. I'm not sure why. But yeah, this is a car. This is how I drive tourists around the Space Center. It's not a great car. It's not a good car. Ah, alright, so I've got all sorts of different versions of Lathe Flyer. What the fuck is this? Uh, yeah, remember when I said I've flown more insane vehicles? This is a more insane vehicle. But this is the launch vehicle for Lathe Flyer that I mentioned. An advanced test article. So here's a second version of Lathe Flyer that's actually a plane instead of a helicopter. I don't remember if I actually got to launch this or if this is just like something I was working on. But I think it's kind of cool. It's got this whole concept. It's got a docking port on the back so it can like attach to things. Don't remember why I thought I would need that. I think that I do know that this is how it would have attached to its launch vehicle, obviously. But the idea is that it can land on the back like this, like vertically. It lands and takes off vertically. So it's got these engines to help it actually land on Lathe for the first time. And it flies around on its jet engines. It's a nice little vehicle, I like it. And then we've got all of these test articles. I don't know why the Lathe Flyer test article is invalid. It probably used something from a mod that doesn't work. And here's the first version of Lathe Flyer. It's an interesting little thing. Let's try to fly this, actually. I mentioned once, like, do I remember how to fly these things? And I think I do want to fly some of the vehicles that I've mentioned before already. I was kind of speed running a little bit, but maybe I shouldn't be. But I do want to kind of see, like, how did I plan to make Lathe Flyer work? Because I remember this alpha test, I think I got it to the point where I could do things with it. And it was just like, all right, the concept of a helicopter works. What's the sort of one that I actually want to send to Lathe? And before this video is out, I want to see if I can find the sandbox where I actually had a working Lathe Flyer on Lathe. But here it is, Lathe Flyer. Obviously this is supposed to have SAS on it. because it falls over instantaneously without it. This is a nice little scanning arm. This is for the DLCs. I think it's Breaking Ground adds this, where you can land near like special features on the surface, and it's got this robotic arm that can go detect them. So this is a rotor. I don't remember how to use it. I know I can use it with KOS, but that seems hellish. I seem to remember it needed like stuff out here. Like, see, this is definitely one of the interesting parts, because I have no idea. Oh, do I like set the torque limit on it? No. Uh, I don't remember how to fly these vehicles. That's kind of funny. Because I literally have no idea how to start with it is the problem. So open editor? Okay. Here's a track editor, and if I start flying it, oh dear. Uh, Stop. No. Uh, Rotation direction counterclockwise? Yeah, you can see because the top is mounted on a bearing, this just spins. I think this is why this version failed, and I kept it because I thought it was funny. Um, can I turn this off? It breaks. Oh, but without two of them, it doesn't seem to work at all. Because this bottom one is trying to drive it, but it doesn't have enough torque to move the other rotors. And I think that's why I redesigned it. Okay. Interesting. Took me an embarrassingly long time to remember that. I swear with the actual rockets I'll remember better. Believe me, please. Okay. So that's Lathe Flyer. Yeah, here I've got the actual Lathe Surveyor, which cost a million Spaceos. They're not dollars, they're Spaceos. Kerbal Space Program is a Mexican video game. The Mexican currency is the peso. The currency in Kerbal Space Program is the Spaceo. The Space Peso. Anyway, massive fucking launch vehicle to send this little thing to Lathe. I think one of the problems that I had was like, yeah, if you look at it, the actual thing that lands, it's got this big ass heat shield on it, which is the same one that we used for the Joule impactor, and it's designed so that it forms this little like bullet shape to it. So it stays stable, and I think I have, if you look at the back, is this supposed to do sample return? I think this does sample return. Jesus Christ, no wonder it's so expensive. This is a crazy over-designed vehicle. Okay, this does sample return from a Jovian moon. And it's got these separatrons on it, so it moves like the bottom part, the heat shield, away. Like it thrusts it down and then away, so it actually can land properly. Here's another, like, this has an entire robotic arm with the scanning bit at the end, so you can move it around a longer distance, because surveyors don't move after they land. Wow. And yeah, it's got a very similar plan to the Eve Surveyor. Like, this fuel tank with these landing legs is the same plan as Eve Surveyor. And then at the top, apparently, somehow, it's got this same plan here somehow. This docking port comes off. These things thrust up into space. For some ungodly reason, it's got fuel tanks with parachutes that fly off. I don't understand this. Oh, maybe the idea is these parachutes help land on Lathe and then they detach themselves. That's kind of cool. But then these side boosters detach once you're in space, and once again, ion thruster gets you back home. And re-entry vehicle. That's kind of cool. I forgot I did that. Minmus Gateway, Moho Satellite, yeah. Here's the... Okay, let's do the servicer first. So this is the vehicle that launched the Moon Rover servicer that I mentioned. So if we decouple this is what landed on the moon. This this guy here is the stage that was lying flopped by the first one, and this is the actual servicer. And you can see this is the equipment it took with it: extra landing legs, some extra repair kits. Good stuff. I think so this is probably the equipment that I took on the second flight. So the first flight would have had the extra solar panels and shit. But here's Moon Rover itself. Got a big ass booster that lands itself. Fuel tanks. If we get rid of that, how the fuck does this work? Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. So if we look at this, this is actually upside down. So this launches this whole thing right into towards the moon, gets it deorbited, I'm pretty sure. And then on the way down, what's the root part? This thing? No. Shit. Probably this. No. This goes on the bottom. There. This guy. Oh, whatever. Okay. These parts are supposed to go underneath the rover in some capacity, but that's not important. These can go away. Basically the plan of this is... Oh, this is not a... Let me reload. Let me reload this thing, because I have screwed it up. I broke it. This whole thing detaches, and then the core of this is... This? No. What is the root part? This. So here is how the rover landed. It's got this big transfer stage on it. This thing up here, so this is upside down. So this controls during launch. And then once we're landing, we detach this whole structure. And we have this. So this is a sky crane. We've got these 4 engines on the side that can gimbal around and thrust down toward the moon. Got a fuel tank for it that's very carefully balanced for the correct amount of fuel. And a giant reaction wheel to keep control. So it goes down, gets slow and close to the moon, then this decoupler fires to detach... And this decoupler fires and detaches this structure, which, if you see it, it's got these these separatrons that help boost it away alongside remaining fuel in the liquid fuel engines, and this just falls down onto its wheels. And this is how it looked in the original launch configuration, lacking those landing gear that were provided by the servicing flight. And you can see, for some reason, I originally had this seat at a weird angle. So one of the things that happened after launch was that I took it and put it like up there, like this. Yeah, and I probably made some other edits to it too, but that's how the rover landed, and I actually think it's pretty cool. I have a video somewhere, I'm 90% sure of landing that. Continuing right on, I don't want to spend too long here. I launched a solar relayer. We're not looking at that, that's too silly. That is too silly. Untitled spacecraft contains locked or invalid parts. Sounds right. I swear somewhere... Oh, here it is. I'm not flying this. I guarantee I do not remember how to fly this thing. But this is a space shuttle. One of the hardest things in Kerbal Space Program is space shuttles. They do not play very well with the way the game models physics. So these are more or less like, these external tank is more or less a realistic external tank. This booster is a proper space shuttle, like realistic. And then I've got this abomination of a space shuttle. And it actually works pretty well, if I remember correctly. Like, it takes a lot of practice to learn how to fly it, but once you know how to fly it, it works reasonably well. And you can fly it places, maneuver it, and once these guys detach and you're in space, it's got these cargo bays. you can open up. It's got a little satellite guy in here. Um, I think this is in space as like the space shuttle test payload or something like that. And here it's got a little robotic arm. I think this is pretty cool. Can I move this here? I don't know. Yeah, like it can rotate this, so it's got a little shoulder to it, and then it can lift up here. And then these things can all extend and got an elbow. Of course, that can extend. And then it's got another hinge here to move around to whatever angle and flip around this docking port that can attach and grab stuff, which is intended for this. So I think the intent was to like, this would go, rotate to 0 degrees. We'll hinge it like this, somehow. Trying to figure out, because I'm pretty sure the idea was that this would connect to this port. Like that it could pick it up and push it out. Maybe like when this is detached, you can flex it like this. Push it like this a little bit. Maybe I don't really know what I'm doing, but something like this to grab it and deposit it back in the cargo bay was the idea of this manipulator arm. I don't think it worked very well. It had some problems to it. I think because of auto strut and rigid attachments screwing it up, but yeah, it's a nice little thing there. And I also built, I saw in the sub-assemblies, it had a shuttle docking assembly. So if we remove this, I also designed this little thing to attach to it. I assume this went here, but it would go at the bottom of the cargo bay, and you could flex this out so that you could dock this to a space station. Cool little thing. Oh, and here's the sub-assembly for this arm. Neat. Yeah, that's a space shuttle. I kind of like it. It's got some cool features. I like the idea of these robotic arms. It's just like it was really annoying to work with, as all good space shuttles are. So anyway, let's try an actual flight. Um, I don't want to try too many flights, but like, let's try like 3 things, alright? I'm not gonna try anything too complicated, but I would kind of like to try CurbSat 1. This is the first like orbital vehicle that I ever flew. I would like to see how that flies. I would like to see this V2 launcher, because this is like, I'm pretty sure I flew this a lot, because launch a communication satellite is a pretty common flight. Or I could launch the station resupplier. And I would kind of like to fly, because I think it's more common a launch vehicle, this Kerbal Station Expedition. Or even the short-term Docker. This is the one that went to the asteroid. But I think this Station Expedition would be more fun. So let's fly those. Let's start with CurbSat 1. CurbSat 1, in brackets CurbSat 1. I don't know why it's like that. But let's fly it. I don't remember if on this save I was using MechJeb. I don't think so. I might have been using KOS. Actually, let's look if I have any KOS scripts loaded. I don't think I expected the video to last this long. I've been having a lot more fun than I expected to, honestly. And maybe it would be fun to just go back to the save and keep playing. Like, remember what the fuck I was trying to do and actually follow through on these missions. Like, you know, land Jewel Impactor or fly Jewel Impactor. Um, do the. I've got aero brakes for the transfer stages. Maybe I should. Let's finish with that, alright? Since this is a copy of the save file and I don't give a shit about breaking it, let's try and land some of these stages, huh? That sounds kind of cool. Anyway, why is the zoom reversed? Is that just on this version or something? Anyway, do I have SAS? I do. I wouldn't think I would have had SAS on this probe core, but cool. KOS, I kind of want to see just like, oh, I don't know. I think I actually wrote some scripts for this save file. but I don't remember how to see what the scripts are. Anyway, let's fly. This mod is kind of something is broken about this install. Maybe just the version, but it should not work this way where everything I click opens a new window. That is not correct. Anyway, let's just fly it. That lifts off nice and slow. But with solids, these probably don't last that long. I wonder what the thrust weight ratio is of the second stage, and this is annoying me that I can't click on things. Everything is pinned. So I think I would have let this first stage burn out vertically. We detach it, and then we start the pitch over. It's really slow because these rockets don't have any sort of control, but we do something like this. Then we start following it. That feels like how I would have wanted to launch it. You can see down there it's actually got a parachute out because I was intentionally doing recovery. Mostly to save money because this is career and I was, as I mentioned, short on money. So there it goes, descending under. We can go look at it. Oh, we can't. It's too far away. But it's descending under a parachute. I think it actually. I would have tried to make it land on the surface, but it may or may not work. I'm gonna go back to watching my time to apoapsis. I am getting short on it, and I don't know. I don't know what kind of fuel, what kind of thing this needs. I think I need to be fairly close to orbit, so I'm gonna stop letting it descend at this point. It's gone too horizontal for my liking. Maybe that's a mistake. I feel like this isn't necessarily something I would have done. I also probably would have flown it with KOS if I was doing shit like this. I would have been typing in CurbSat 1 debris. Yeah, and it's landed or deloaded. I can't tell which. But this is about to burn out. Right. And I would think here we would coast to apogee, but it's like suggesting otherwise, the staging order of it. So I guess we just send it. In which case we probably go back to this. Because all right, these lines are so annoying. Uh, if I actually go back to playing this save file, I am going to try and upgrade the Kerbal Space Program itself. So this is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, when I mentioned KSP has been getting progressively less buggy over time, this is what I meant. But this is our last stage. So I need to get out of the atmosphere here and circularize somehow on this one burn I've got going. Jesus Christ. So just kind of watching. I don't know if this is a good idea, but I do. No, 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 no. We. Why does this move me the wrong way? What? Why do all of my buttons move me in the wrong direction? Okay, I guess we're doing this. Can I guess I have to fly you this way. I don't know why the controls are stupid, but I need to get above the atmosphere fairly quickly here. In fact, I think I've gone too shallow with this. Because in order to actually be in orbit, you need to be in space when you complete your burn. And I am not going to be in space when I finish this. So this is going to be like a very elliptical orbit. I fucked this up. Maybe. I know this has RCS. Or at least it has monopropellant. Does it have an RCS thruster? I don't think it does. Yeah, so I have failed this launch. Not by much. What is this? Why does it have a monopropellant tank? I don't understand. Oh, it does have. Okay. Wait. Huh? Where is the monopropellant coming from, though? Here? Oh, it's got linear RCS ports there. Okay. So maybe what I can do, if I am a smarty pants, is point like this and figure out what... Yeah, if I thrust in that direction, it's going to increase my perigee. So if I fly this out to the apogee... Here, for the record, here's the actual CurbSat-1 in an almost perfect circular orbit. Because I knew what I was doing. I had a plan for how this one should fly. It's not actually perfect. Okay, I definitely did a little bit of this where I went too high and finished the burn, but Jesus Christ, it was not this. Okay, so I think it's gonna be... Oh god, control inversion. Okay. I think it's gonna be this that does what I want. Alright, yeah. So now I'm just gonna use the RCS and put us in orbit. I'm 90% sure I didn't mean it to be used this way. I don't know why it had a reaction control system, but we're now in orbit. I satisfied the original conditions in a completely wacky way. Here it is. Yay. There's some problem-solving skills for you, huh? Let's go see CurbSat-1. I want to see, like, did I actually use the monopropellant on this guy? What the fuck was I doing? I burned actually a lot of the monopropellant. What the hell? Did I do that exact same thing? Was that like the intentional purpose of it? In which case I actually got a way higher orbit? I don't know, dude. That doesn't make sense. Oh, Airplane 1. Yeah, we didn't even look at the planes. I actually have some flags. South Pole crash site. Let's go look at a couple of surface flags, just real quick. I do have the habit of planting flags whenever I do something interesting on a manned mission. Or on a crewed mission, I should say. As Scott Manley had once pointed out, Kerbals are not manned. The man in manned doesn't refer to men necessarily, but it does refer to human. And Kerbals are not human. So you could argue that these missions are instead bald. Let's not look into the implications of that too much, though. Apparently I crashed here, but there's no debris, so I don't know what happened. First surface feature. Oh dear God, that is not what I wanted. Let's switch. No! Damn it. Alright, here's the Kerbal Space Telescope. I guess we're looking at this now. Hello there. Yeah, it's like Hubble, but it's attached to this massive propulsion system. Jesus Christ. Oh. Are these like not on? Oh, these are RCS thrusters. I see. Yeah, so it has 2,000 meters per second of RCS power. So I could just send this into orbit of the sun if I wanted to. Hubble itself doesn't actually have any capability to move around. Fun fact, that's why Hubble is the king. It actually works perfectly, but its mission is going to end soon because it's going to fall out of orbit, and there's nothing people can do about it. Anyway, what I wanted to look at was this surface feature that I mentioned. What is this? I probably went here with the plane, with Airplane 1. I think Airplane 1 had an arm on it to do some scanning. Yeah. Our first surface feature is a tree. This is actually the exact same model of tree that was seen in my Kerbal Space Program series, the actual series, not Realism to the Moon. Cool. Okay, I'm just gonna look at the other flags because we've got Airplane 1 runway landing, Kerbal Tourism first landing site, and Kerbal 2, which is where Valentina would have landed. And I guess Jeb was a dick and landed in the ocean, so he couldn't plant the flag. Cool. All right, back to the Space Center. Or fine. Back to the Space Center. That was a fun little flight of CurbSat 1. That was interesting. I think I said I would fly No, I would fly one of the CurbSat deliverers to see like the difference in how I fly orbital vehicles. The first one versus the commercial launch vehicle. But you can probably tell that the game is struggling a little bit with how much I've done in the save file. Part of that is the old version, like every version kind of got a little bit more stable with Kerbal. Um, Part of that is the number of mods. This definitely runs a lot better than it used to, though. Like, on my old computer, I guess it was in parts the same computer. Like, there's a direct lineage from the computer that was running this to the current one, but all of the important parts have been replaced. Actually, I think I added more RAM to run this save correctly, but I've changed the processor, I've changed the graphics card, so the computer has a little bit of an easier time chewing on it. Um, why am I in the tracking station? What am I doing? I was going to fly another satellite. I keep adding more stuff on. If you're still here, it's because you're enjoying what I'm doing. And I think this is the most interesting part of the video, in my opinion. So, you know what? I'm not gonna apologize for doing these things, because if you weren't enjoying it, you would have left by now. And if you are not enjoying it, then go away. Ah, from the description, you could see this could go to the moon in an expendable configuration. It's meant to deliver a satellite very precisely, and the satellite it launches features serviceability, which I bet means it has a docking port on it or a miniature docking port for the shuttle to attach to. One of those. Because I do remember there was a phase in this game where I started making sure every vehicle that was intended to stay around had a docking port available, so that if it needed expanding or servicing or anything, like it had a port available for visitors, so to speak. So anyway, let's fly. So oh, that's a cool plume. Look at that. This takes off a lot faster, and the first stage lasts a little bit longer. So I'm going to start pitching over fairly early. This is what my instinct tells me I want to do. Let it stabilize a little bit and then start following prograde. Based on this, it's going to go pretty much into space. I've got this fairing set to be next. This is a cool looking engine. probably want to throttle down a little bit for this part because we're going supersonic. I don't want, it's not so much about like crew comfort or stress on the vehicle. We're not going to break apart due to aerodynamics, but I do want to not lose a crazy amount of energy to drag from going too fast, too low. Now that we've got a little bit higher, I'll firewall the throttle again. Yeah, we're getting some re-entry effects going, but I'm pretty sure we're okay. I'm going to bring this up to 80 and then turn off the engine. Because this is not realism overhaul, I don't have to worry about throttleability. Engines are infinitely throttleable, and look at this. I even set a thrust limiter on it to make sure I didn't get too much drag, like I mentioned. And I also don't need to worry about ignition. I don't have to ullage this engine. I don't have to worry about will it fail to ignite. I don't have to worry about does it have enough ignitions, because ignitions are reliable and unlimited. And you can kind of see this is one of those balancing things, right? Like, this is arguably more fun because you don't have to worry about as many things, but it's also a lot less challenging. And you, and you can see that I started adding self-imposed challenges to this save. Like, let's try to land every rocket stage, right? Or, let's do these crazy missions with tons of tourists and sample returns from freaking Pluto and shit. And just, yeah, the game is so easy when it's too far into the stock category that you kind of have to, if you have a lot of experience playing the game, you have to start setting challenges for yourself or start installing mods that make it harder. Like, one mod that I really like and actually briefly contributed to was Remote Tech, which before they had the default communications network, the one that's running all of these links here, it would. I should probably do this burn. Remote Tech supplied that first before it actually became stock. And Remote Tech also included lightspeed delay. So when you send a signal in real life, it takes time to arrive. You don't just say, you don't tell a probe, I want you to turn on your engine, and immediately it instantaneously listens to you, right? So, oh, I think I was supposed to fly this a little more steeply because I need to recover that. It'll be fine. Um, when you do this in real life, you do have to account for the fact that it takes some time for your transmission to get to the probe. Like, it takes about a second and a half to reach the moon on a signal. And here we are. We are now in orbit here. So I will go here, and in keeping with what I believe I should do, I will actually try to recover this stage. What's in here, by the way? I'm assuming just like, yeah, the All right. Don't need to look in there. That's the probe core. So Remote Tech adds that. And that means that, like, you can have some serious issues with I have to wait and like I send a signal and it's going to execute in 3 minutes or something like that. And that adds a lot of difficulty to the game, especially because it modeled like if your signal goes through a relay satellite that's on the other side of the planet, it has to travel all of that distance. It's not just, the light speed delay between the space center and where you are. It's along the entire path to where you are through all of the relays that are necessary to get you to talk to it. And it would automatically select the relay that had the highest bandwidth when you're sending science or the lowest delay. And it was a really complicated and honestly really fun mod because I enjoy building that sort of communication system. And then you have to start adding in KOS to start executing commands, like to start making decisions without waiting for lightspeed delay. Or it had a flight computer that let you schedule when to run commands. So even if you went into the shadow of a planet where you didn't have a communications link, you could say, wait and execute this command there, and all sorts of stuff like that. basically making it harder for you to do whatever the hell you want. And that's something that you kind of need when you are very experienced in this game, as I would say that I am. There are people who do more than me. There's a guy that I saw who is an actual like astrophysical engineer. He does satellite trajectory planning professionally, and in his spare time he plays Kerbal Space Program. And he does stuff like, I would describe it as rocketry golf, where you say how like can I get to the surface of Eve on 2 tons of rocket? Or can I get to orbit in 600 pounds of rocket? Or stuff like that. And I think I also screwed up here. I think I am supposed to reserve some fuel to do a braking burn. Because this is getting really, really hot, and I think the engine's going to explode. And then the rest of it's going to explode. So I think I'm supposed to save some fuel for this part to run the engine, slow down, and not explode. That was probably how the program was supposed to work. But let's see if we can land fuel tanks. Because I think it's cooling down now that we have more drag going sideways. Um, there are people like that are crazy and do cool things. There's Scott Manley. They're definitely better at the game than me, but I'm definitely good enough at the game that just, playing on modded install and the game asks, can you go to space? Can you dock two spacecraft together? Those things are very challenging when you're not used to the game, when you haven't developed those skills, but when you have, you need to add difficulty, is I think the point of what I'm trying to get across. And that's the idea behind a mod like Realism Overhaul, to remove all of the hand-holding that the game gives you to make it fun to do rocketry. And instead do, you know, realistic things that are realistically kind of insanely difficult sometimes. Because there's a lot of mission plans you just can't do in Realism Overhaul, right? Like, you can see I positioned the parachute so it flips over and preserves the engine. That's a nice little touch. Because the engine's the expensive bit. The part that I blew up. Um, yeah. Like, you can't do this sort of return missions that I was planning. If we... Like, I can do something here where, like, cheat time forward and we try to do the sample return mission that I was showing you. I genuinely don't know if some of them will work. Like, I planned it out so they can work in theory, but I have no idea how they'll work in practice, and maybe that would be fun to see. But the way they work conceptually is that there's a little kick stage that pushes you into space onto a suborbital trajectory, and then these ion engines that are way more powerful than real life ion engines take you the rest of the way home. And that would just not work in real life. Like, you would need such a massive amount of rockets to take a realistic amount of ion engine and battery power and stuff like that into space around Mars to make that fling. The actual plans for Mars sample return, in as far as they actually exist, do involve that. They have like this cool spring-loaded system that tosses a rocket into the air and it pitches itself out of the atmosphere and puts itself in orbit, and it specifically launches a capsule forward, and another spacecraft comes and catches it and flies it back to Earth. And it's a super cool mission plan because you have to do stuff like that in the real solar system because things are so big and require so much energy that a lot of the stuff that I can do in one rocket in stock just doesn't work. Like, the Apollo program couldn't land directly in the moon. You saw with Kerbal 3, the mission plan was like, we have this one launch, it takes the capsule, lands it on the moon, then that same vehicle leaves the moon entirely, there's nothing left behind, flies it back home, and then that same capsule that landed on the moon comes back to Earth. And for the Apollo missions, they couldn't do that. They would have needed a much bigger rockets to even have a chance. And because the actual capsule to land back on Earth is way bigger than you need to land, to just contain people in space on the moon. The heat shield is very heavy. The pressurization stuff is all heavy. The controls are very heavy. And the amount of fuel you need to get back from the moon and to circularize orbit into the moon, that all takes weight. That equipment is not necessary to go down. You don't have to haul the lander back. The Apollo mission plan is like what you see in Realism to the Moon, where there's one module that handles liftoff and landing on Earth, and one module that lands on the moon, and then it detaches another thing to come home from the moon, and we can recover this guy. And basically, what I'm saying is that because the stock system in Kerbal Space System is so small, you can get away with a lot of things that don't work in real life just by virtue of the fact that things require so much less energy. Like, I think Kerbin in the game, even though it has a surface gravity exactly identical to Earth, it has a diameter smaller than the moon in real life. So everything is just that's kind of the summary of this rant that I've got on while waiting for this thing to land because I kind of regret doing that now. Um, is yeah, you things are so made a lot easier in the stock system because everything is small and everything is simple. Um, I don't know if we want that was kind of a fun little launch to fly. I don't know if we want to go back and see like can I put the satellite into a specific orbit or whatever, but I would at least like to see what equipment I have on the satellite for fun. Because I remember the description said now featuring serviceability or something like that, and I want to see what that means. There are other ways to make the game harder that I didn't actually do. Like when we were looking at the default game, I mentioned Kerbal Construction Time. That's a mod that adds into the game, well, construction time. When you build a rocket, instead of being able to build it and roll it out to the pad and launch it right away, you press build and it tells you like, all right, it'll be ready in 200 days or something like that, and you can fast forward time and then spend 36 hours rolling it out to the pad before you launch it. And when you research science, that takes time, and so on and so forth. Like everything takes time, is the principle of, Kerbal construction time. And that's a lot more realistic. Obviously, NASA can't just say, draw up a launch vehicle and then say, oh, I would like this to be my launch vehicle, and instantaneously teleport it onto the pad. Let's see, decouple this node. All right, so this is the ComSat. This is it. So yeah, what I meant by serviceability was it has a docking port for someone to visit. Nice little thing. Got a relay antenna to talk to satellites for missions. Got some omnidirectional antenna to talk to stuff around Kerbin. A docking port, monopropellant so it can move itself around. Cool. And then here's the upper stage. I could try to land it. It would be simple. Let's see if I hit the satellite. Bonk. Yeah, it does this. Here, this is the part that I missed that I was supposed to do. Because I'm supposed to put it sideways like this, and then when things start getting hot, I'll do the braking burn. Kerbal construction time makes things harder, especially when you pair it with like life support, right? Because, for example, right now in Realism to the Moon, spoiler alert, if you whatever, I am doing a rescue mission, quote unquote. I've decided that the lunar landing mission doesn't have enough fuel to go through, and I am designing a new vehicle to go refuel it in orbit of the moon. And I think that's a really cool mission plan. I think it's fun to be designing and trying to fly that sort of thing. Like, that's an interesting challenge to me. And in Kerbal construction time, I'll just have to abort the mission because my Kerbals would starve to death and die of thirst and suffocate before I could even build a rocket. And there's these intervals where like you research a technology that you need to do the next mission, but you have to just sit there for a couple years while it researches, and that's the kind of difficulty that I find on fun. Like it adds a little bit of difficulty to specific types of missions, but the amount of pain in the ass that it adds is just crazy. Like, it makes it so much harder to just play the game. And you can see here, I have these panels ready to tell me what the critical thermals are, so I'm gonna try and pay attention to them and use them. But that's why I don't want to install a mod like Kerbal Construction Time. Like, there has to be a balance between making it difficult enough that playing the game is actually some sort of a challenge, that sometimes you run into a situation you can't manage, or there's a difference between that and just punishing yourself by making the game harder. And by the way, another reason this game is harder, because what I'm doing right now is impossible in real life. Or, like, the velocity I'm shutting off is 2 kilometers per second. Like, I can stop right now with this upper stage. In real life, this would be more like 8. It would be crazy to hit the atmosphere going 8 kilometers per second, like this, with just an engine and no heat shield. And that's why it's until Starship that we have a chance at landing an upper stage in real life. While in Kerbal Space Program, I can basically just have a stage with a little bit of extra fuel, do a braking burn like this, and now we're probably just going to be able to land. Maybe not, but if I don't, hey, another braking burn. Who cares? Nice picture of the moon. I like this crater. You can tell Kerbin got hit by a big asteroid. And actually, if you get a mod that lets you scan the seafloor, you can see that the developers actually put into the like the terrain of the seafloor. There's a smiley face like right out here. Yeah, we're cooling down. I didn't need a second braking burn. Me smart. I'm just gonna decrease the altitude of deployment here. I don't care that much. I'm not that interested. The higher you deploy, obviously, the more time it has to slow down, but I don't really care that much about recovering this, obviously. Like, as soon as I'm done recording, I'm just gonna delete the save. I apparently didn't apply my changes, so I'm the idiot. Um, One mod that I do enjoy that makes the game harder is Ferrum Aerospace. I don't know if I actually have it installed on this save, or if this is stock aerodynamics. Stock aerodynamics used to be really, really garbage. Instead of an atmosphere, Kerbin used to have a subosphere, and the way the game computed aerodynamics was like each part has a drag coefficient, and it would just add up the drag for your entire rocket. So if you put a nose cone on top of your stack, it would actually add drag because the nose cone has non-zero drag, and it still computes the drag for stuff under it. So you would see people doing all sorts of weird things to minimize the aerodynamics because the game just didn't do the math properly. And this guy called Ferrum4 made a mod called Ferrum Aerospace Research that actually added realistic aerodynamics. And it made the game a lot better and a lot harder because now you could break your rocket by doing a hard turn at Mach 5 or something. I'm going to use the engine to land faster. I'm going to use physical time acceleration to land faster. There, we can stop now. I apparently don't think I have Ferrum on this game, which is interesting. But I think it was version 0.9 released a new version of aerodynamics that was actually like passably good, where it had at least a model of it had a better curve of the atmosphere getting thinner with altitude instead of just like the atmosphere is soup until all of a sudden it's not there anymore, basically. And it got a model of like occlusion, so based on your direction into the airstream, The part in front blocks the drag for the parts behind it. And that makes the aerodynamics work a lot better. It's not as good as Ferrum, where it actually understands. Ferrum is kind of crazy. It understands like Mach effects, and when you're flying near the speed of sound, you start getting shock waves produced by the local airflow going faster than the speed of sound. And that causes all sorts of crazy aerodynamic effects when those shock waves hit different parts of your vehicle, and the game actually understands those things with Ferrum. And it's a very interesting system. Ferrum is part of Realism Overhaul, and it makes things very unusual, very interesting. Um, I don't know. I said I'd launch a space station expedition, but I'm increasingly thinking it's not going to be that interesting. Um, I'm just going to take a look at it and see if there's anything that would make it interesting. Because I'll be honest, like, it's pretty late. I wasn't planning on recording this for 2 hours. I said I don't have a time limit, and I meant it, but I'm getting tired, and I want to stop recording before it's 6 a.m. Um, which, if I let myself just keep clicking on missions and flying things, it will eventually become 6 a.m. I don't want to do too many other things, so in the interest of trying to limit what I'm doing, I'm gonna just like evaluate. Do I really want to do Kerbin Expedition? Kerbin Station Expedition. Because this is a vehicle I remember like flying a lot. Um, and you can kind of see like this has definitely got some design heritage back all the way to Realism to the Moon, because this is the same sort of thing I did there with a separation motor in the nose cone to split it away, the decoupler at the top to make sure it goes off, the engine bells kind of lined up. Was definitely a lot better. Well, actually, these fairings just work better, I think. How do these attach? Yeah, this just attaches there. Huh. I'm not entirely sure how these fairings work so much better, but they do work a lot better. Because, yeah, it's not like this stuff, it's not like it's attached directly. Anyway, this is a vehicle I've launched a lot. I'm very confident in it. It's all got liquid motors. There's nothing really that interesting about this vehicle, I've decided. So, let's leave. All right. I wanted to point out, like, there are three remaining things I wanted to do. There was try to do a surveyor's return mission, like the sample return part of surveyor, which I think would be pretty cool. And I can just cheat that in, or at least I should be able to. Um, there was try to find the sandbox or just cheat with Lathe Flyer and try to fly that thing around. I do remember, like, on like the alpha test version, I do remember actually getting that to fly and flying that around. So I would kind of like to see if I could make that work. But the other thing was, so before I start cheating, let's do this one, in other words. Airplane 1, because I remembered that there was a flag for Airplane 1's landing. And let's see what Airplane 1 actually is. If the spaceplane hangar wants to load. There we go. So what planes do I have? Ah. All right, let's just look at these in order. So here's a copy of KS Car. Yeah, it's the same car from the VAB. I don't know why there's two copies of it. There's KSC Tourer, which is just a strictly better version of KSC Car. This is an actual car, even if it's a little ghetto. There's Drone 1. Oh, this is like Ingenuity, honestly. This looks almost exactly like Ingenuity. If you look up a picture of it, I mean not exactly, but as close as you'll get in KSP. Let's just quickly I want to quickly take a look at this because this is how helicopters fly. Wait for it. All right, so here we are. I'm pretty sure. How does this work? I think this one flies with torque limit. So we turn on SAS, and then we start torquing it up. Something needs to lock. I'm pretty sure this works. Brake, no. Brake locked? No. How do we use this thing? Somehow this works. I don't remember how. Obviously, I wasn't good at this. Maybe we'll skip doing lathe flyer because obviously I can't figure out how the fuck to make these things actually fly. Because all I'm doing is spinning. Do I need to like change the angle on these? No. Hang on. Ah, there's the brakes. Dear God. When I turn up the torque, are we compressing the landing gear? Or are we stretching it? Yeah, I don't know. Uh, ah. Okay. Figured it out. So, uh, much like an actual helicopter does actually have to change the angle of the blades, turns out you have to change the angle of the blades on this design. So I just made it start creating a shitload of lift while it was spinning the motor in the wrong direction, which drove it into the ground with a force of several tons and just kind of blasted it straight through the runway. So if I deploy this, so it's tilted like that, then I start turning up the torque, probably want SAS. Yeah, now we start hovering. And I probably wrote some KOS scripts to be able to use this. But now, like, if I start, it's really hard to fly it because of the way that it keeps rolling around. Like, you can see it's processing. So I don't exactly have control of where I'm going with this thing. And I think that's why Lathe Flyer had two different rotors so that it would not roll anything. Oh shit. But if I point radial out, let's try to land it now. So if I just turn off the blades, if I turn on the brakes to stop the rotors, because I'm getting tired of this. Alright, now brakes off. Yeah, you can see I made it almost nowhere, even though I tried to fly it somewhere. We're just landing back on the runway. Because I have no control over where this thing goes when it's processing like that. Let's start spinning these rotors up. Let's spin these up really far. I'm doing this way too late. Ah. Clearly I am also bad at flying helicopters. But in fairness to me, a real helicopter would have more controls than how much power are you putting into this rotor. Um, let's break it and then start just torquing up. I did it again. All right, that drone is really hard to fly. Kind of want to try. You know what? No. You tell me if you want to see Lathe Flyer. tell me to set it up. It'll take me a lot of work to figure out how to use the damn thing. So let me know if you want me to run Lathe Flyer. Um, the one that I really wanted to look at was Airplane 1. So here's Airplane 1, which is a plane, obviously. It's got these two scanning arms, so it can scan surface anomalies, a bunch of science on it. It's got a it's got a solar panel on it, which is kind of funny because this will break up. Um, if it's extended in flight, it will just break off. But the idea of this is that it can land places and then also take off again. So the solar panel will help charge it in that situation. It's got some nice air brakes, and importantly, it's got emergency use parachutes. And by emergency use, it's actually not that emergency, I don't think, because it does have a crew of two. So I think the idea is one of them's an engineer, and he can renew the parachutes. Maybe depending on if they can actually get out of this hatch. Um, Jebediah Kerman from my KSP series would complain about that. Airplane 1 LR, on the other hand, looks like pretty much the same. No, it's not the same plane. It's the same plane, except it's got these engines to help it take off quicker and with more fuel. So let's just do a quick tour around with LR. This is something completely different. I've demonstrated pretty clearly. I remember how to fly rockets, and the rockets I designed here were sane. I think that default would have been a lot more fun. I would like to try to fix that someday because I think that my old rockets in that game would have been a lot crazier and would have been a lot more interesting, and they would have been made with the original aerodynamics in mind. So it would have been a lot more interesting to see, like, can those fly? Um, but that is not in the cards at the moment. All right. But I don't remember if this version of Kerbal Space Program has like runway issues. Some versions of KSP do, where the runway is just way too bumpy and the wheel colliders don't work correctly and things are just generally awful. You will notice that this has a wacky landing gear configuration because it has a nose gear, wing gear instead of main gear because those work better in Kerbal Space Program in my experience because this is flatter. And then it's got one tail gear back here to make sure that you don't ram the engine into the runway. 737s actually do have something like this, but it's not quite as big and obvious. I'm just looking to see, did I install a mod to run aerodynamic, plane controls better? No, apparently not. All right, so I'm guessing I don't run up the engine on this, so let's turn off the brakes and then fly. You can actually go inside and fly from in here. She doesn't look particularly happy with the situation. Uh, ah. Come on, pitch up, pitch up, pitch up, pitch up. Why are we slowing down right now? Huh? Why is this forward? Hang on. Why is the jet engine set to reverse thrust? Is it set to reverse thrust by default? Did I do something? I probably fucked it up by messing with the brakes. I hit the brakes because sometimes you want to do like a run up where you let the jet engine spool up to full power before you actually fly, but apparently not with this one. Forward thrust, alright. Take two. You can see it's really veering off the runway here. If you pay attention to where it is compared to the center line. Okay. We are off the ground, but that was the worst takeoff I have seen in my life. If I was an airline pilot, I would be extremely fired. But anyway, we're flying now. And here's the real extended range part of it, because those rocket boosters don't help that much. But these detachable fuel tanks, those really help. Because you can see here, that gives me like, that gives me pretty much 15 minutes of flight time. See, nice maneuverable plane. I remember for some game, I don't know if it's this one, I did install a mod that made GPWS sounds. And I actually made a mod for that mod that changed the sounds a little bit to make it more realistic. So it'd be like, if I do this, right, it would start going, terrain ahead, pull up, or stuff like that. Or if I did this, it would be bank angle, bank angle. Again, those are noises real planes make, and I thought it would be funny if the plane would do that. And it's also helpful. Like, screw it, let's do this mission. Let's go. I think this is what I did on the first test flight of my plane. This is like how I verified it flies alright. Or rather that I am capable of flying it. Got a little bit of slide slip here. Side slip. But fly it out to these mountains. If you look at the map of Kerbal, it's kind of dark in the map of Kerbal. But there's this mountain range, and it's kind of a nice little flight to take off from the runway, go out over the water, and then fly over the mountains. There's also this island has another runway on it, but it's scary. So I'm not gonna try to land on that. My first time flying a plane in several years in this game. But you can really see where LR gets its name because, like, these fuel tanks aren't even going to deplete on this flight. Oh, I put on lights. Look at that. Look at that. Doesn't that look cool? Yeah, there are forward-facing lights, so you can see stuff on the ground ahead of you. Because, like, the original intent of this plane was to land, and it can land under parachutes. And just do science somewhere. And to do that, you would want to see where you're going. Like, if you see something cool on the surface you want to use this arm on, you have to know where it is, so you use the lights to spot it. I probably have a lot of clips of me flying this thing from inside the cockpit, because it is kind of fun to try to do that, but you can also see we're kind of at the speed limit of this plane, which is 150-ish meters per second. If you do the math, that's about half of the speed of sound. So this does actually fly much slower than an airliner. We are pretty low, granted. It might be able to fly faster if we take it up to about 10,000 meters where airliners fly, but they would fly at about Mach 0.8-ish. We're nowhere near that at the moment. I actually don't remember the service ceiling for this plane. I remember I used this for quite a lot of contracts, so I did have a pretty good understanding of how it worked. And like, if we look at it, I'm pretty sure I did like South Pole crash site. I'm pretty sure this was a landing of the plane. Because I do remember landing it on ice. So, I definitely did some pretty long flights with it. And I'm 90% sure this tree down here, that surface feature, I think I flew that with this plane. With the long range variant. So, yeah, it can definitely go places. It can even go farther away if instead of putting the jet engine at full power and flying low to the ground like I'm doing, you know, use cruise speed and cruise altitude and crazy stuff like that. But anyway, hi other Kerbal, I don't remember your name. I'm gonna this is where GPWS would actually help, because GPWS is forward-looking, and it tells you, like, are you going to hit this mountain? I think we are. But let's use the radio altimeter to see what what the distance between us and the ground actually is. This radio altimeter actually sends a radar ping down and tells us where the ground is. Starting to get lower. It's gonna start getting lower real soon once we hit here. No, you know what would be a fun camera mode, actually? Where is it? Off? Yeah. This is a fun camera mode for planes. There we go. Just go behind it and you can see exactly where the plane's looking. We're kind of in the jet engine plume, which is a little interesting, but... So we clear this mountain ridge. What I'm going to do here is bank over, just do a little turn. Want to slip in between these peaks without, you know, falling. We can level out, put some altitude on. You can really see how I'm bleeding both speed and altitude when I'm doing this shit. And one thing that I really like about this plane, like, I put a lot of work into this. I'm not good at designing or flying planes, at least in this game. But I put a lot of work into making this very forgiving of doing crazy maneuvers like this, except I hit the mountain. I barely clipped the ridge of the mountain. But you saw, like, I was just climbing straight up and the plane was actually flying. And that's what Airplane 1 was good at. Um, I say was because I blew it up, but anyway, I'm just gonna do one more thing with it, which is demonstrate the parachutes. Or actually, I'll show you. I'm gonna try to land with parachutes on the island runway. That's my plan. And we'll see if I get that crazy situation on takeoff again, because I did not enjoy yawing out of control. Anyway, same idea. We do this little rocket-assisted takeoff situation. I'm gonna try to pitch up earlier. Yeah. Because we obviously fly considerably earlier than I need to. Here go those. We can actually like turn back around and observe that situation. There they go. I believe they've landed. Can we see them landed? Yeah, you can. It's not easy to see, but I think you can see the rockets down there landed next to the runway. If you're really good at flying a plane, you can do stuff like fly underneath that bridge on the R&D center. I cannot do stuff like that. I am not good. I am bad. That is why, if you look at the way this plane is, it looks crazy because it has these huge, huge horizontal stabilizers. Like the wing is kind of the same size as the stabilizer, and it's got these canards on it. Basically to let me do crazy strong pitch maneuvers like this and still gain a lot of lift even at low speed. Because I'm aware of the fact that I'm an idiot and I'm going to do bad things. Anyway, let's try to fly a little ballistic arc sort of thing. So let's... Because it can't climb straight up, but I'm going to stall the plane on purpose. I know I said I'm flying out to the runway, but... You know, flight test. What happens if I do this? Yeah, in Ferrum Aerospace, I would be spinning out of control right now. Um, I I would be in a flat spin, but stock arrow is much more forgiving to doing dumb shit like that. Because I think in Ferrum Aerospace I would have to have used the recovery parachutes to land. But yeah, shout out to stock aerodynamics for letting me do that. I don't think wings stall in stock aero, which really helps a plane like this. Because in Ferrum Aerospace, I'm pretty sure if I do this, I would just fall out of the sky. From basically the wing getting so angled to the direction of air that it just turns into a block, into a wall, instead of flying. And in lieu of trying to fill up the time, I'm going to use time acceleration to get as close to the island runway. The thing about flying planes is planes are not very fast compared to rockets. They're fast compared to cars and boats, but compared to rockets, they crawl like snails. So I'm going to time accelerate our way close to the runway and fly inverted, trying to turn towards it. Just so that we don't have to listen to me talk all the way there. So like, if I was trying to land this thing, uh, I remember practicing landing at the island runway before, and I know from this altitude I would need to put out the air brakes. If you think about how a plane works, you definitely do this thing where you exchange, but like altitude and speed are exchangeable for each other. Like it's easy to climb, to pull up and slow down, or to dive and speed up. So from this situation where I'm kind of high and fast, I definitely need brakes. I don't really have a good idea in mind of what my landing speed would be, though. Maybe a little bit of thrust would help at this point, though. We are a bit high of the runway. I don't know why I've turned this into an actual landing on the island runway, but that would be funny to see. Alright. The landing gear come down. That adds a lot of drag and a lot of pitch down motion. And yeah, I'm totally not on course for this. There you go. We were sort of landing there. And the power of Airplane 1 lets us do this shit. We basically hover in midair and barely make it out of this situation. But yeah, that was crazy. If you noticed, we were going like car speeds. Hover, like, when I say we were hovering, we were basically hovering in place over here. Just literally just the wings are so fat that they don't let the plane fall quickly. And that's the only reason I didn't hit the ground there. Landings are hard, man. Alright. But here I will demonstrate parachute assisted landing. Is it this that I connected it to? Yep. I love the abort button. It's one of my favorite buttons. So on Airplane 1, if you click abort, it detaches, I guess on LR, it detaches the side fuel tanks. It shuts down the engine. Those explode? Wow. I sized the parachutes wrong. Deploys the brakes, shuts down the engine, and arms all the parachutes to deploy. Um, it does seem to like to land very nose high. I'm trying to avoid that. I also should have put the gear down earlier. But yeah, it lands. And if we just set the brakes, We're landed. And we can actually do a lot of experiments here because I haven't been to the island airfield in this save, apparently. Kind of crazy. But anyway, yeah, that's airplane one. Um, hello? Is this safe? Yeah. There's actually a whole, like, airfield here, which is kind of cool. It used to be an Easter egg. Not a very difficult one to find. There's another one of these. I did a mission to visit it. I think it's like here. There's another like there's a second space center there. It's kind of cool. I think I have a recording somewhere of me making that flight in a different kind of plane, but anyway, that's not nearly as interesting. So anyway, that's that. Um, I'm gonna take a quick break. Try and remember how to by trying to remember, I mean Google, try and figure out how to hack a surveyor on. Because I think it would be fun to do Duna Surveyor, the equivalent of Mars, and just show the like ascent to orbit part of the sample return concept. So I will see if I can do that, and then I will call it quits for this video. All right, let's full send this thing, I guess. Here we are. Here's all of our wonderful list of missions. Actually, I guess Minmus Surveyor was the first surveyor. Um, I think it had a different design. Oh, I actually landed two things on Minmus. There's the Kerbal 2 was a Minmus landing? Huh. Alright. I guess that's how it is. Um, didn't know that. KSC, oh yeah. Here's what I did with the relayers. There's one near KS over the Space Center, or at least that's where this originally was, because it's called KSC Relayer, but it's barely seeing it. And then there's Opposition Relayer that uh, can pick up the signal from the first relayer and send it messages from elsewhere. So basically, the only place that they can't talk is like here in this little wedge. Um, doo -doo. I feel like I'm missing something. Ike Surveyor. Duna Surveyor, here we are. I do sometimes wish with a save like this there was a search feature, because you can see most of that entire list is just communication satellites. From my obsession with sending communications everywhere in the universe. Um, yeah, that save basically has, no matter where you go, you have a radio link to the ground. Honestly, I really like that. I'm kind of proud of it, but it does make everything kind of a mess to find anything that's not a communications relay. Alright. Here it is. In transfer towards Duna, aka Mars. So what I kind of like, okay, what we could do, since this is just a regular save, is actually like pretend to follow the mission forward, right? Like we focus view on Duna. You can see this is kind of the angle that it's coming in at. It's got a periapsis of 14,000 meters. And actually, I kind of do want to do that because this is a really good orbit. Like I got it planned so that it aero brakes in and everything. So health and trajectory check, yeah. But let's just screw it, you know. Let's warp here. Hang on. Like I'm just gonna delete every single alarm because I don't give a fuck. I'm literally going to delete this save in a few minutes, so I'm not worried about deleting every possible save. Yep. Sorry, Bobsat. All right. And we're just gonna warp to like right here. Oh no, my Kerbals are dying because I've left them without food and water for years. Oh dear. I would actually deal with that, but again, don't care. I literally just want to do this one thing and then I'll delete the save. I would like to know, like, there, it's TAC OS. This tells me if there's problems. TAC Thunder Aerospace life support. This is not the same life support mod that I'm running in Realism to the Moon. I don't know if it's... I don't remember if I ran a life support mod for the other one. No, I'm pretty sure I did, and I'm pretty sure that one was TAC. But the Realism overhaul now suggests using a mod called Kerbalism. Not entirely sure what the difference is. Yeah, all my Kerbals are dying. I know, I don't care. Come on. Can we go faster? This time acceleration is taking an awful long time, even at 20,000 times speed. I don't know why it's not using 100,000 times speed. Maybe I should do this from the tracking station. I'm being very impatient, I know. But you saw how slowly the days were ticking away, and again, I don't want to keep you here watching this video for a million years waiting to see if the sample return mission actually works as planned. And I don't want to be here until 6 a.m. doing it, if possible. So yeah, we're gonna go to this tracking station where we should be able to use a little bit more time warp. Even though that adds some extra loads, I think that is worth our while. So I want to find it again. Ike Surveyor, Duna Surveyor. Jesus Christ. Alright. Okay, I do not care. Okay, it's not gonna let me time warp while it lets me know that everybody has died. I understand, okay? Yeah, everyone's dying. Okay, I get it. You know what, screw this. My patience for life support shit is getting significantly lesser. So, let's make things go a little bit faster. Let's just murder the Kerbals with buttons. There's those Kerbals, then I should have a space camp somewhere down here. There it is. Go away. And then finally there's the asteroid. I worked really hard to get that asteroid, for the record. Like, it was really hard to get that asteroid into a decent orbit of Kerbin that I could send visitors for. And, where the fuck is it? Now I'm just gonna delete it from existence because I don't want to deal with it. If I can find it, that is. I don't seem to be able to find it. Okay. Whatever. I guess those are going to be able to interrupt us, and I can't stop them because they've outsmarted my attempts to kill them by being fucking invisible. The fuck are you? It doesn't exist. It's not on the list. Like, hello? Okay. Anyway, doing a surveyor. Yeah, I know. I don't care. That went a lot faster because there's a lot less of them. Oh, warped. Stop it. I don't care. I know Kerbals are dying. This is a. I know it's. I know it's a big deal. I do not give a shit. Alright, I'm gonna have to go fucking fix this thing. I'm getting deeply annoyed at the way it won't shut the hell up. So, where the fuck is the asteroid? There it is. Bye bye. Alright, can I please fly my one mission that I'm trying to get? I don't know if I should have clicked fly yet, but whatever. We're sending it. Life support should now shut the fuck up because there are no living Kerbals in this entire space program, which is not great. That is not how a space program should be run. But considering I'm literally just trying to do this one thing, and it has nothing to do with Kerbals being alive, and the save file will cease to exist when that one thing is complete, I'm okay with that. All right, here we are. Yay. Don't know if I want to warp there. What I would like to do is warp to like here. Yes, now things go much faster without the life support mod interrupting me constantly, trying to convince me that I care. Alright, so here you can see, actually, there's Duna that we're approaching, and there's its moon. Yeah, cool. Don't care. Come on. 9 more days. And there it is. Still trying to get closer. So there's science alert telling me I can do all of the science now that I'm at Duna, which approached very quickly. Here it is. Yay, Duna. All right. So this periapsis actually rose substantially from all the time acceleration. That's probably why I had the science alerts, but I don't give a fuck. So what I'm gonna do is try to fly this as if it was a real-ish mission, which means we start out getting nice and close to perigee, or para-airy. I don't know what the correct adjective to use for this planet is. Like, come on. We're gonna make a big retrograde burn, which I kind of screwed up a little bit. Because the SAS keeps disabling itself for some reason. Contract failed, contract failed, contract failed. World's first milestone. Oh, we have discovered an alien. I got paid for landing that plane on the island airfield, I guess. And we have done all sorts of cool things by sending probes time warping across. And yeah, everybody's been killed, I know. Wow, look at all this science. Science, 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 science. Look, that's actually like really high value science too. Yeah, it's nuts. The magnetometer report is 300 science. I'm not even going to be able to collect it because it's inside of a fairing. I think another probe was doing that anyway, so that's fine. Um, how fucking long is this burn? Oh, my TWR sucks. Why is this set to 10% thrust? That explains a lot of things. But I guess we should... I don't know why I'm bothering with science. I'm just kind of having fun. But yeah, transferring data takes a lot of power. I have kind of chewed through all my power. You can see Ike there. Like, look how close these two things look to each other. Duna, Ike, Duna, Ike. Like, things are really close to each other in the base game. Ah, and there we are. I don't remember where the atmosphere starts here. Don't think it matters. Because, okay, what I would do realistically here is go to apoapsis. You can... Oh, somehow I have run out of power. Somehow I ran out of power and still managed to get onto course. That's probably why I kept losing SAS, lack of power. Anyway, theoretically I would get here, then detach this. Right, so we have this. Now here is our little... I don't think this is... I don't know if this has a communications thing on it. I don't think this is an actual probe. So here we'll just do a bit of a deorbit, I guess. get it down to like 20,000 meters? Question mark. And then drop that. And now we have our heat shield, and this is going to be our re-entry vehicle. I really like how I did this, where the fairings line up very well. Because this fairing is for the re-entry, and this is the actual fairing. Yeah, we've entered into orbit, don't care. Oh good, we're actually suborbital. So if we warp into the atmosphere, oh, we have warped into the atmosphere. That's fine. So anyway, we want to point ourselves like this with the heat shield forward for obvious reasons. And hopefully we'll re-enter. Yes, thank you. You can see we've actually lost control. We've lost connection to Kerbin. Because I didn't bother to fix the communication satellites that probably already passed by us. Like, actually these seem to be catching up with us, so maybe this is correct to how surveyors should fly. Not correct to how I wanted to do this was we seem to be landing on the night side. I didn't think about that, but oh well. I guess. We are definitely landing though, so yay. Nice little sedate landing going on. Wow, it's science. I definitely put some keyframe together to collect all the science into this thingy. By the thingy, I mean the return unit, but instead I can just click through there. And there we go. Because that is a insane way that games work. I'm really glad that you can send the camera straight through fairings and click on stuff inside, because otherwise life would be hard, but... Like, this is realistically what I would be doing during a descent, is collecting data, putting it there. And now that, so our re-entry has calmed down quite a bit. I don't remember exactly how I'm supposed to do this next part. I did have a whole ass mission plan, but I don't know. I do know that since our situation is still flying... Okay, I guess we just transitioned, but... And I got rid of clicking on it. This is the boring part. Like, we're just trying to descend, so... Doing science is the most exciting thing we can be doing. I think right about now we should drop that. We broke an antenna. That's probably fine. But alright. So our parachutes are armed. We're working on landing. I have no idea which antenna broke. I think it was this. But that's okay, because we still have another one. Redundancy. Although, come to think of it, I don't know why it's positioned in front of that. No, that's fine, because that's for the upper part. Never mind. Then I don't know what's supposed to handle communications for this lower section. Maybe the surveyor is not very well designed. We should definitely start doing a little landing burn here, though. Alright. Landing burn just to make it possible to land. There's the heat shield running into the surface, but we are now descending about 300 meters over. Here's an antenna that broke. Okay, so I think I have lost the surveyor base station has lost the ability to communicate with the rest of the world after we detach the sample return. Um, Good education for me in the future if I were ever to land this again. But I do not have it. And we lose some landing legs, but we are landed. Yeah, we have fallen over. That is not great. Um, that is a shame. Why did we lose those? Kind broken by arrow forces. Was it? Did we just hit too hard? I didn't think so. We were landing pretty gently. I also forgot to use the landing lights. Those might have been useful. But anyway, we can now do all of the science. This was the concept. So we do all of the science in the world, and then we can go here, go click on this, and collect all. Now the problem though is that we are not pointing upwards. I do not have enough authority to point us upwards. I actually don't have any control of the vehicle at all, for the record. Um, can I open this? Apparently, yes. And now we have control of the vehicle. So maybe I could move us back up from here. No, not really. This is not designed to be able to do that. We could do something crazy and like ramp ourselves off. This is a Kerbal Space Program strategy where you try to lift yourself up like that, but it obviously results in explosions. But yeah. Obviously, we were not going to do sample return from that position. So I hope you are satisfied with that landing and these explosions. In the end, that is the fun part of Kerbal Space Program. Blowing stuff the hell up. Alright. That felt kind of cheap. I'm gonna go cheating again. Not gonna entirely cheat. I could relaunch the Duna Surveyor and just cheat it somewhere, but there is probably another one that's pretty close to landing, so let's just switch gear. Yeah, this video has gotten way longer than it was intended to be. It's almost 3 hours. Jesus. Um, and this last part has definitely gone way off the rails. But I want to test the sample return on camera now, so I'm gonna make that happen. So let's grab a different lander. What would be a good one? Dress surveyor, where are you? I have no idea where you are in comparison to where you want to be, but you appear to be working on an encounter in a year. That works for me. So let's try doing this guy. He's not going somewhere that has an atmosphere, so landing is a little bit interesting, but these asteroids fuck off. Where the fuck is Dress? Is Dress even real? The world may never know. Seriously, uh, is this the best way to find it? There it is. There you are. All right. Yeah, all right. Let's just try again with Dress Surveyor. Juno would have been a little bit more interesting because it had that whole, atmosphere thing going on, but I don't care. Maybe we could have done Lathe. All right, here we are. This is Dress Surveyor. This one's going out a lot further from the sun, so it's got very big solar panels, and it's going to somewhere that does not have an atmosphere, so it doesn't really give a shit about fairings and such. This fairing is for re-entry on Earth, or on Kerbin. And here's the same antenna that broke on the Duna Surveyor. I guess I didn't really think about that at some point when I was designing it. Oh well. Anyway, once again, this lower stage is not intended to be a relay probe, so I can just crash it into Duna, or into Dress. Here's Dress. Can you just fast forward to, like, here? Or, I don't know how long this is going to take. So that's 1 hour, that's 2 hours, that's 2 hours, okay. So we can warp to, like, here or something. And then I'm going to turn on the landing math. Fun fact, I've never actually landed on Dress. It's one of those things that just doesn't seem beneficial. Yeah, look at how high away we are. Look at how small it is. We're going to be hitting it in 7 minutes, by the way. So I am going to burn off whatever's left in the stage. Because the suicide burn calculations are not taking into account, the fact that this stage is going to run out, I'm pretty sure. Alright. So then, new stage, the actual landing engine, is this Terrier. And it says we start the suicide burn in 2 minutes, and it's going to take 11 minutes to land. We're doing that under time acceleration. But its delta V is 1,741 meters per second, and I packed 1,840. So look at me actually doing the mission planning somewhat correctly. Hopefully. If this crashes again, I'm going to be upset. And there's actually a fairly good chance with this little margin. But we will see. Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Starting it. Okay, fine. I'll start it on time. Because it seems to gain a little bit of time. You don't want to, like, start too early, because you'll just have to cancel out gravity again, but the suicide burn countdown does not appear to be... Well, because we appear to be falling into a canyon with this, so... I'm gonna try to be reasonable about this, but the Delta V is definitely gonna not be great. I'm gonna let the countdown get to 10 seconds and then I'm gonna start it again. The problem is I don't know like what's gonna happen to the terrain because here's our impact marker and it's moving this way. I don't know where it's going. I am not familiar with the terrain on Dress, so there is a chance that the suicide burn fails just because we happen to end up on Highlands and screw up this entire math. Who knows? And that is why I'm trying to leave a small margin of error, but obviously I do not have a lot of extra fuel. Yeah, this landing is going to be more manual than I was hoping because the landing altitude keeps changing. Dang. I mean, again, if you want to talk about how small things are in this system, look at how, like, again, we are quite close to the planet, realistically. Like, the International Space Station is further from Earth than we are to this planet, and look how small it looks. If you go and find a picture of what Earth looks like from the International Space Station, it is massive, and we are way closer to this, and it is still like a little round ball. You've probably noticed I'm not talking as much as I was earlier. Honestly, my voice is just fucked from 3 hours of recording footage. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's just uh, I usually do not speak this much for this long. I'm not good at it. Wasn't even planning it. So yeah, does bad things to the good old throat. And you can see the consequences of like all the fucking around I've been doing with the landing burn. Like this is a kilometer per second of delta V. Our margin is slowly getting smaller because of the change in the landing point. So when I'm actually landing probes like this, I will probably have to like quick save and quick load a few times to get this burn right because the margins are not that big. But of course, as we get lower, the time difference gets, changes slower because we're not moving our landing position by nearly as much. So we still, like, I think that we've still got the correct margin for this. It might just be a little bit hairier than I would like under other circumstances. Oh, our biome has switched to from lowland to ridges. I'm not sure that's a good thing for us. Considering we are, trying to land somewhere flat would be nice. Ah, we're back to lowlands. Hype. Yeah, this has estimated burn 2 minutes 41 seconds, which is a minute longer than this. I'm not sure who to trust, the game or KER. I guess I'm trusting KER though. Yeah, see, now it says that my suicide burn delta V is greater than my remaining. But this doesn't. Oh, no, it does. So we might be fucked. Would also probably have helped to be burning that way. Retrograde against the surface instead of retrograde to the center of the planet. Yeah, this is going to be a landing failure, so you know what? Instead of blowing up like we did with on Duna, I'm going to pretend to abort the mission. By which I mean I'm just going to start the sample return as soon as we lose this engine. So what we do is set radial out and hit this stage. So that stage is supposed to kick us away from Surveyor itself. And then this stage goes off. And we are at a severe disadvantage from the fact that we were going down initially, but we are at a slight advantage from going up. So now that we're doing this, we sort of... I don't really know the correct direction to do this in, but we try for this. So our objective now on the ascent is to... Let's roll level. Is to keep our nose above the horizon, so do not crash. There's the Surveyor itself, the landing platform blowing up beneath us. We want to avoid running into the ground, but otherwise, because there's no atmosphere to slow us down. Hey, look, there's Kerbin. Wow, pretty. Because there's no atmosphere to slow us down, we want to be thrusting as sideways as possible, because going to space is mostly about going sideways. On the other hand, we need to give a lot of time for the ion engine. This is something that, again, I don't really know what I'm doing that well. There's that ion engine. Cool startup sound. Ah, I see. Yeah, and you can now see the apoapsis time is counting down pretty quickly because our thrust to weight ratio is very bad. Ion engines basically use a fuel that's ions, duh, and it uses generates magnetic currents to accelerate them out very, very fast. So that makes them extremely fuel efficient because if you if you think about if you imagine a rocket engine as creating thrust by conservation of momentum, which is what it does, then mass times velocity of the fuel exiting this is equal to the mass times velocity that you gain going that way. And that means you either have to throw a lot of stuff slowly or a little bit of stuff very quickly. And when we discuss efficiency in terms of how much mass does it take to change our velocity, it follows that we should be trying to throw as little mass as possible as fast as possible. And when you look at this and it says specific impulse 3690 seconds, that's exactly what it measures. It says if the exhaust was sitting on the surface of Earth and you pointed it straight up, it would take that long to come back to land. It's measured in seconds for stupid reasons to make it the same in imperial and metric. Because the actual measurement here is, you know, the exhaust velocity. And ion engines have crazy fast exhaust velocity. The problem is they require a shitload of electric charge. You can see I have these massive solar panels here and these smaller ones helping out, and we are actually draining the batteries right now, firing the ion engines. Um, the plan for this was basically to drain the engines, drain the batteries, getting the apogee or the address high up and like actually getting into something that could qualify as an orbit on the ion engine. That's kind of the plan. And then if the battery runs out after that, fine, we're in space, we can recharge it. But that's the limiting factor on how big the battery needs to be. And yeah, that's basically the summary of ion engines. They require so much power that you can't reasonably make one that's big enough to create a lot of thrust. So ion engines in Kerbal Space Program are actually crazy overpowered. Like it sounds funny because this only produces 1 kilonewton. Um, but yeah, ion engines in real life are measured in like millinewtons at best. Like I can look up the most powerful ion engine ever built. This is a real thing. There are satellites that have ion engine RCS, but and there have been space probes that used ion engines like to go between different asteroids in the asteroid belt. I know that was a real mission called Dawn, which this engine is named for. Most powerful ion engine ever built uses 12 kilowatts of power. And how much thrust do you give? Thank you for being unhelpful. APS. Yeah. All right. The engine consumes 12 kilowatts of power and produces 600 millinewtons. So that means that the engine can lift 600 grams against Earth's gravity. For reference, I don't know how much this weighs, actually. Hang on. Does it say? Kind of cool if it said. It doesn't say how much the engine itself weighs. That's cool. But point being, like, this generates the sort of force that if you had that engine running at full power into your hand, you could very easily shove it away from you. And that's the most powerful one ever created, and it runs 12.5 kilowatts of power, which is like 10 household outlets all plugged into one thing, all going as hard as they can without blowing the circuit breaker. It is an actually nutty amount of power per thrust. And the fact that it's so efficient, like the this little can of xenon and coupled with these things gives me enough to run it for 2 days continuously and generate 10,000 meters per second. So I can do crazy inefficient things like burn at this high an angle. And that's the reason they're used in real life too. In real life, they usually fire constantly when they're being used on a mission like transfer between asteroids, at least, because that's what you need to do in order to get this engine to run and actually get you somewhere. That's, the trade off. And I am realizing I am a complete dumbass and didn't time accelerate. What is exploding now? Oh, like those are the boosters. I see. Oh Jesus. You know what? Why am I doing it like this? Why am I not just like, what is this? Yaw, pitch, then roll. There. KOS is now in charge, so I don't have to keep fixing my pointing angle. Laziness. Programming. Right now this says our impact time is going up, which is a good sign. It does point out that we cannot physically land because this engine is not powerful enough to pick up the weight of the spacecraft. Yeah, these engines in Kerbal Space Program also do generate thrust in the atmosphere. They don't really do that in real life. I mean, obviously they generate some theoretically non-zero amount of thrust, but pushing against air pressure means they don't realistically do anything. Hey, we're in orbit. All right, cool. So technically, now that we're in orbit, what we would do is figure out how to go home. I'm not sure I want to go through this whole mission planning. It's late, but what we would want to do is eject going this way, right? So if we had a regular engine, we would want to make a burn right around here. That looks like this. I guess dress doesn't have the gravity that I thought it would be. Yeah, we would say like target Kerbin and try to accelerate this. Usually it's easy to do this if we look at the sun. So grab the maneuver node. This is just like a quick tutorial on how to try and do this. I kind of want to plan the maneuver and not actually calculate, not actually like run it, but and you can fiddle around with it a little bit, like if I change the angle, but usually you can't get too much about it. So if we look at that, that actually gets close to touching Kerbin. It might help if we do fuck around with like the angle, the inclination to be precise, and we try to like get this close. That feels fairly close. Get this close to the line, and then get this close to the line. Like yeah, that feels like it would encounter Kerbin eventually, and then you just start changing when it happens. Um, There's better ways to plan out this maneuver, but basically you do that. You set up a maneuver that will eject you from dress going that way, and you time it so that when you are at this point in the orbit, you run into Kerbin. Instead of doing that, I'm shit. Which of these buttons is it that I want? There we go. I'm gonna press cheats. I think I argue that it is a good sign that I don't remember how to use cheats. And I'm just gonna teleport us to Kerbin. So we are now in low orbit of Kerbin. And I'm gonna unlock steering at this point. I'm gonna unlock steering with a Terminator. And we're gonna use SAS. And we're gonna pretend. Oops. We're gonna pretend that I actually got here legitimately by setting up an encounter from Dress. You saw from the maneuver note it would take about 4,000 kilometers per second, so we have tons of delta V for it. And actually, now that we're closer to the sun, our batteries are charging, even though we're thrusting. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, we're now going to set up. If we were doing this like really properly, we would be coming in on a hyperbolic trajectory. Like instead of gaining an orbit around Kerbin, we would just slam into Kerbin directly from our dress rendezvous. Like set it up to be close enough that we would hit the atmosphere. Because you can do that pretty easily with how weak ion engines are. It moves your orbit by so little that you just get exactly what you want pretty much. And there's so much power available, so much fuel that you can get what you choose to. But anyway, at this point we're re-entering, very likely. I'm just gonna keep thrusting until we hit about 45 kilometer periapsis, and we'll pretend that we're coming in hyperbolically. Again, it's not really accurate, but this does have a lot of ablator, so we'll drop that. You can kind of see how I designed it. That has additional power on its own. This has these giant solar arrays. And we'll fold them in now because we are about to go through re-entry, and they will probably burn off because they are hanging out below this heat shield. But that's fine. We're just going to slam into the atmosphere. All that needs to be done now is to get through re-entry and press this stage button, which will basically separate everything that we're not actually landing and deploy the parachute. There's actually quite a lot of parachutes. I don't know why. Maybe some of the parachutes are trying to land the actual like aerodynamics stuff, like the heat shield, this SAS unit, the drone core. And I think the other parachute is there to actually land the science, because that's the important bit. Here comes Kerbal Space Center. Oh boy, look at that reentry effect coming off of the solar panels. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna make that the thumbnail. Just like I said, they're totally gonna burn off. There goes the ion engine stage. I think that we're actually gonna have the hottest. That's interesting. The hottest part is the antenna, but the critical part is the heat shield. But we actually sort of make it through, no real problems, obviously, because this was designed to re-enter from an interplanetary trajectory. So we actually don't even make it to the Space Center. Yeah, look at how draggy this is now. So now that we're pretty low, I'm actually way late to do this because of time acceleration. Oops. But I detach this, all the parachutes go off. And actually, it looks like the sample return capsule's parachutes are less powerful. This is the important one. There above us is the aerodynamic thing. Sure hope this is armed properly. Armed to go off at 1,000, yeah. All right. Here we go. Pretend we are landing some science with this mission. You can see this one. I don't actually even know why this has a probe core on it. I think it might just be so that the game doesn't accidentally declare it as being debris. But yeah, look at all these experiments that I've got. And alright, if we just time accelerate forward a little bit. There is a bug where time accelerating while parachutes are opening or while you land can cause problems. I don't know which version it got fixed, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't actually exist anymore, but there we go. We have landed science from Dress. Wow. And yeah, clearly my idea that the sample return capsule had stronger parachutes was not correct. So let's just let those phase through the surface of the Earth, and yeah, we have successfully done a aborted return from Dress Surveyor. Um, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to show. I think that was kind of a fun little mission plan. I'm gonna go delete this cursed timeline from existence now. Hopefully you enjoyed watching at least some of this, though. If you stayed here until now, I'm pretty sure you did. So, why the fuck did you enjoy sitting through all of this again? I don't know. Anyway, uh, go do something better with your life. And if you want me to go through the pain and suffering of trying to figure out how to do Lathe Flyer, or if you want me to start making actual videos off of this save, I guess, because I had a surprising amount of fun looking at it again. Let me know, I suppose. And under no circumstances, like or subscribe to this channel. This is not a good YouTube channel. I don't do anything. I occasionally post KSP. I make no guarantees that I will actually continue doing anything on this channel. Might just get bored and abandon it forever at any moment. Do leave a comment though with your opinion on the other questions. I don't know. Shut up. I'm going to bed.